All these guys in this room, they're here because they have the only thing that matters to me. The only thing that should matter to any of us. You know what that is, Tommy?
They're loyal.
That's right. Welcome to the family.
Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of The Testing Room, where three of the video game industry's best video game consultants who have never actually consulted on a video game bring you new topics each and every week. As always, I'm Alex, a.k.a. from this hellhole we call New Jersey.
I'm Christian, a.k.a. Also from a new created hellhole called Milwaukee.
Yeah.
That will hopefully be given back its good status later.
We'll see. I'm Preston, a.k.a. Funkadelic Jedi, in the same place as that guy.
Yeah, in Milwaukee, not
Yes.
New Jersey.
No, I pointed.
I know, but on my screen, you're pointing to the
Doesn't
complete
matter what
opposite
your
side.
screen says.
So.
It doesn't matter what my screen looks like. All right.
All right. So, welcome, everybody. As always, we're going to kick things off with Preston's Comment Corner and see what's going on over there.
We got a comment from Jakey Poo saying, "Hello, friends.
Oh boy. Uh-oh.
I played a game
God,
start
it's
to
gonna be a
finish."
response.
You guys stop. I played a game start to finish on vacation and wanted to share because this is a video game podcast. That it is.
I have been told that before.
Yes.
Allegedly. At least
thought
for an
about it.
hour of every podcast.
Yeah.
It was Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It was a masterpiece from gameplay, mechanics, music, and visuals. I see why it's one of the highest rated PS1 games of all time. And honestly,
It's considered an all-timer.
now one of his favorite games. Highly suggest if you guys haven't played it before. It was my first Castlevania game that I finished, and it'll be tough to top. Yeah, I've definitely thought about putting that on the list because you mentioned it, and I played. I played Bloodstained. I didn't play Castlevania, but I'm
Well,
That
definitely
was
curious.
the Bloodstained was the spiritual successor, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's made by the creator of
Sure.
Castlevania. And,
So I'm sure I would like it.
Oh, okay.
and it is basically Castlevania in all but name. Like, there's...
Legally distinct Castlevania.
Yeah, like, it was just because he couldn't do it, but it's the Castlevania game that he wanted to make before he went off on his own. You played a Castlevania game. I mean, Bloodstained is
sure.
a Castlevania game, but...
I only played two Castlevania games. I played the OG Castlevania game. I never played Symphony of the Night. And then there was one for 360, I believe, where you were like Alucard or somebody,
3D.
but it was like over the shoulder, more action-y
third-person
game.
action game, yep.
I played that one, and I don't think I ever finished that. Those are the only two Castlevania games I've actually ever played.
So, I have a weird relationship with Castlevania where I don't think that I've ever actually put physical hands on any of the games, but I know so much about them because of all the speedrunning stuff that I watch.
Oh, sure.
But you haven't actually played many of the games.
I haven't played any of them.
Interesting. I feel like that would have been up your alley, sort of.
It is. Well, the problem is that's what I was getting to, is that I've watched so much of them through all the speedrunning stuff that I've seen that I know, I've seen so much of those games, but I just never went and actually put physical hands on them. I also love anything. There's the Castlevania fighting game that was out for a while that I saw that was fucking radical, and I think Symphony of something Shadows is the one you're talking of, Alex. The third person
Lord of
action
Shadows
game.
or something like that.
Oh,
Lord
sure.
of Shadows, yeah. I know people are. That one has, I think if I remember correctly, it's the first one is super well received, and the second one was maybe not so hot, but the first one people fucking love. That was on the 360. But either way, I also love the anime for Castlevania, the show. It's weird. But like I think Castlevania fucking
You
rules.
have gotten me into the show. I am 3 seasons out of 4 in. 3
Yeah.
seasons out of 5. 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's such a good show.
It's very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's the only comment we got. But yeah, Jake, I'll definitely put that on the list we got for the video game book club. That'd be an interesting one to go through.
I would love to do that actually.
Yeah. I think it would be interesting.
It's a shorter one.
So.
It's like under 10 hours on how long to beat. I was looking up the other day, so wouldn't be a bad one.
Apparently, if I
So
if
we
I
know
just-
we
if I
know
fall-
what Preston's next book club game is going
No,
to be.
I already got that one lined up already. I know what that one is already.
if I figure out a way, or if I can follow some of the guys I saw in Games on Quick, I can get that game beaten in like 15 minutes.
Oh no, shit, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
Backwards
for me, I'll be
dashing the
honest,
entire
like
way.
it was okay. It was a little glitchy at times,
little short.
but yeah, I don't know. This didn't have a whole lot of story. Amazing. All right. Well, thank you for the comment, Jake. I also never mind. I'm not gonna say it. I don't want to start a fight.
No,
Start a fight.
now
I was
he's gonna
surprised
wanna
he
know.
wasn't. I was surprised he wasn't ready to come at you. Over your
Me
last
too.
comments.
And I think it's because he knows who's in the right in this situation.
Or
right
he
now.
may not have listened because he was on vacation the entire time. Who knows?
I'm going to guess no. That's
It's a no,
not
Scott.
it.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, I'm not gonna start a fight. But you know what? Who cares? Who cares?
I need drama in my life.
So, anyway, well, let's kick things off with our weeks. I'll go first here since I got it. This is my book club game tonight.
Yeah.
On that 14 life, I'm not going to talk too much about it because Christian, I'm sure, will mention it in a minute. We beat the story. Woo! Now we're
Nice.
continuing on with
Congrats.
other stuff. Yeah. I've been a little bit of a hiatus only because I've been traveling and it's been hard for me with the shit to play, but hopefully we're going to run the new dungeon tonight. Fingers crossed.
No.
I mean, I'll be on, so hopefully we'll get that done. I played a little bit more like Dragon. Not really gonna get into that, and then of course the game we're gonna play tonight. The big update for me in gaming is that I am currently standing in front of the final boss door of the DLC of Elden Ring.
There you go.
So yeah,
You
we
beat in
were
the parking lot.
No, unfortunately.
Said you would.
We on Saturday, Allie and I had like a no screen day, right? So we
There
went
you
the
go.
entire day, just us hanging out, and like we
Yeah.
didn't have our phones or tablets or nothing. We went out and did date night. Like it was a fun day, right?
Yeah.
Sunday, a lot of that, like we did that for a little while too, and I cleaned the house. But then when we were done cleaning the house and we were all relaxing, I was like, well, I got some time. Let's pull up on Remote Play on the iPad. Let's pull up Elden Ring. And I did a lot of stuff. I went through the map and I did a lot of map scraping, and I got all of the shadow fragments except for like one. Because to get the final level 20, which is the cap of your shadow fragments and like the actual leveling system you're supposed to do in this DLC, it requires 3 to level up to 20, and I have 2, so I'm missing like literally 1 to get to level 20, and I just
It doesn't-
like, you know
get
what?
it at
I
18,
don't
it
know.
doesn't matter.
I don't care.
Yeah,
it's
not
it's
that
the
much,
thing.
yeah.
And then I went back. I had marked like 4 different bosses on my game that I needed to go back and whip some ass because they were pushing me around earlier. So there was like a dragon that was out in the middle of the field that was giving me and Christian a little trouble at first, but especially me. Anytime he would come in, it would kill us, and then Christian would be like evacuated from my game. And I had trouble with Mimic Tears. I came back, I whipped up that dragon, I went up and fought Bale, whipped up that dragon. Which I will say about Bale, I did it with help of the other community players who
Sure.
hopped in. Somebody
Why
came
not?
in and was like super tanky and did it. I fought I went through and started fighting a bunch of bosses. I did the Mother of Fingers quest,
Ugh.
which, can we just say, like, there's two, again, the world building in this game is absolutely amazing. Like, this is a game I could dump. I could not dump this much because I can't do New Game Plus that much. Like, once I beat it up, done. with it,
Yeah,
right?
I feel you.
I understand though how people could do 1,000 hours into this game and just scrape the map and look for secrets, because I've actually felt really good. This DLC is probably the first time I have felt locked into a Souls game. Like, okay, I've played this one, the previous game for the DLC. I played Bloodborne. Like, I know this system now, So I got in confident. I was finding like invisible walls and secrets and dungeons and stuff like all by myself, and I was super proud of it. So I could see why people would spend forever in here. With that being said, I don't think anybody ever really beat the last game and went like, man, Alexander was a cool character, but like, what's in the pot?
No.
And they answer that question for us in the most hideous, disgusting way. It's like, I didn't need to know that.
Well, and we
But
already
you put
kind of
these
knew,
enemies
right?
on.
Like, he says, like, you know, oh, I put, like, body parts inside here, and it makes me stronger, and that's how I absorb power, and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, I can already, in my mind, like, I can picture that. I don't need
Mutated
to,
thing, yeah.
but thank you. But then this game, it's just like, here's the horror flesh sack that comes out that sort of, like, flops out of them, and you're like,
And they're like,
God.
wouldn't it
It's like
be-
the kid
and they're
from
like-
inside.
Yeah, and they're like, wouldn't it be funny if we just had these little pot creatures throw themselves at you to purposely shatter their pot and come crawl? It's like, no. So, like, that's number one. But number two, though, and the most egregious thing, right, was the little spider hands. Like, some of them are like little it hands.
Seen them, yeah.
And others are like the two hands together that are literally like 8 fingers. And they're just spiders. Like, there's
Spider
no
hands,
face.
yeah.
There's no body, there's spider hands. They move like spiders, they kind of like get up on their fingers. It's all creepy. It's super unsettling, right? Who in the hell went, man, it would be cool to know where those things came from? Because they went so disgustingly far with it. And on top of that, they tied it behind a secret quest, and the quest is awful. So, like, the quest itself is fine. You meet this priest, he's a little creepy. He's like, hey, the kid died, whatever, go do this thing. You come back and talk to him.
Go blow
He's
on a
like,
horn. You're like,
he's
no,
like,
that's
go
how
to
I
some
get
ruins.
infections.
Yeah, he's like, go to these ruins. You go to the first set of ruins, and it's just like a crater in the ground with like rock statue fingers sticking out of it. In the center, there's some rock statue fingers hanging down, and you got to grab it by the tip and just give it a big blow.
Oh, God.
Phrasing on purpose, right? They're like, it's like, that's unsettling. So you get back the first time, and he's like, hey, you need to go to other ruins. And I was like talking to one of those little like spider hand creatures, and he's like, guys. The second one, though, is worse, like the ruins, because I don't know what you're supposed to do here. Upon coming into this area, there are straight snipers, and these snipers hit you with this like purple binding thing, and that ties you up, and you like fall over and can't move. But to make it worse, a worm teleports out of nowhere, and like a rift opens up in the sky, and it slithers down and just grabs you and sucks the life force from your face. And it killed me once. I'm like, all right, let's go back. Killed me twice. All right, let's go back. The third time, I'm like, screw this. I'm just running. Like, I'm getting on the horse. I'm running. I get sniped, and he takes, like, I get half my life force sucked away. So then I roll out, and I get the horse again. I keep running. I get behind rocks, and I'm good. I get sniped a second time, but luckily in the second time, I could get up before I got my grabbed again. I get run. I get sniped a third time. I got bound up 5 to 6 times before I eventually just, like, brute forced my way to these ruins. And when you get to the ruins, it's done. Like, nobody will mess with you. Anyway, blew on the second one, went back, blew on the third one, and then you have to fight the Mother of Fingers, which is like
Horrific.
it is horrific. I don't even know how to describe it. It's got like 4 legs. It's kind of like the
They're all
lion
fingers.
dancing. Yeah, it's like the dancing lion thing, Preston. I know you've seen it, right? Like, it's like that, except it's literally all fingers, and on the side it's fingers,
Oops,
and
all
the head is
fingers.
the head is like a thumbprint, and it shoots lasers out of its little fingerprint thumb, and it's just like, it's all so unsettling. And the way it moves, it doesn't just move forward and back, like scurry sideways. And it's just, it's awful. I beat it, and it's, the thing this game does really well is like, it's a train wreck. You don't want to stare at the gore, but there's also something about it where you can't look away. And you're like, I appreciate the lore, because nobody has built deep lore that like this in a way that's like super intriguing. Like, oh, you came from the stars. Like, oh, I'd love to know more about these eldritch horrors in Elden Ring and Bloodborne. Like, that stuff's brilliant. But they're not really going to tell you. It just is. And I'm like, I love it, but also like, ew. So, luckily I killed that on my second try, because it was terrible.
That's
all this
Alex's
stuff.
review of Shadow of the Earth Tree. Ew.
It was essentially it. I am ready to beat it. The only thing I would like to do, I'm not going to do before I beat it. I'm just going to go ahead and beat it, and I'll come back to it later. A couple of like special weapons for the DLC, and some that include like cool puzzles and invisible bridges and other stuff. Like eventually, I would like to do the Sword of Light, and the Sword of Dark, and stuff. Eventually, but otherwise, I've done everything. Like I'm outside the boss door.
Sweet.
It's great. It's great. I'm ready to beat it. I'm ready to knock off the list. I'm ready to move on to another
there you
game. So that's what I've done. Also, I have caught up on Star Wars, unless there's a new episode that came out
Acolyte.
either yesterday or today. Yes.
Tonight is the finale.
Okay, so I'm caught up. Otherwise, I still, in my opinion,
Just okay. It's fine.
yeah, I still think people are making decisions that aren't normal, rational decisions, and I still think
No, they're not.
what happened to what's his name that poisoned himself, a little fucking dramatic, bro.
A little bit.
But either way, it's fine. It's fine. We'll see how
Exactly.
it ends.
That's how I feel. I can tell you how it ends. It's going to be rushed. Either that, or they're going to leave a whole bunch of answers on the table, and there'll be a part 2. So those are your 2 options.
Do we know?
God, I'd love to see a season 2 of this show that people hate.
Oh, I would too.
mean-
I would like. Hey, if you give me more, and it makes more sense, sure. But there's a lot of things they need to wrap up in this last episode. So it better be at least a 45-minute episode. All these episodes have been around 33 minutes long. It needs to be at least 45 if they really want to wrap it up.
I can't keep track with what they're renewing and what they're not. Like what's a mini series and what's an actual series, because like everything, The Mandalorian was like 2 years ago. Book of Boba Fett was like 2 years ago. They just do things so slowly that like I have no idea what's actually like an ongoing series. So this one, we could get a season 2, but it'll probably be like 3 years.
They have
from
not
now.
mentioned it being anymore. I know that the creator or director has mentioned like we would love to have a season 2, which means that she has ideas for what she would like to do for a season 2. So I'm hoping that this ends the story arc, and maybe she has more stories she would like to tell in this world, and not that they're going to leave things out and then want to wrap up for a season 2. That's what I'm hoping is not the case, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
She has 2 things against her.
2 days ago,
She has
they
two
just
things
dropped it.
against
Says that they were asked. Disney Plus has not renewed The Acolyte for a second season. However, the showrunner said that she has been having conversations about continuing the show past season 1.
Yeah. So she has 2 things against her. The internet exists, and she's a female dealing with nerd culture. Like, it could be great, and you're going to get hate. Unfortunately, it's not great. So you're going to get even more hate because the internet
Adult
exists.
hate.
Yeah, so it sucks. Like, I don't really have a problem with her. I appreciate
No.
maybe pushing the boundary in some places, and I appreciate
Sure.
some of the stuff she brought from Legends over. Like, that's all fine. I just, at the end of the day, it's just not well written.
No.
Like, and that's my take. I'm not going to be one of those guys, and I'm not going to receive hate for like, oh, you just don't like it because the woman and blah, 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 it was different. No, it's just not well written.
No, it's
I don't know
not.
what to tell you.
Yeah,
Right? So
they're cool fight scenes.
Anyway.
I'll give it that.
Yeah,
Looks
good
real
fight
nice.
scenes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
got
Yep.
it.
I'm getting real annoyed with this show did it, King Kong back in the day did it, there's other stuff do it. It's like, let me put all this marketing on this one like actor that's like really cool and you really like him, and like, yay, 5 minutes, instantly dead in the first episode. It's like, oh, cool, like
Can't afford
maybe
Carrie
they'll
Ann
be
Moss
back.
for an entire season.
Oh, they kill Carrie Ann Moss within seconds.
Oh, yeah,
King
no,
Kong did
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
King Kong back in the day did it with Bryan Cranston, right? They did
Oh,
all the
yeah, it's
marketing
like,
around
oh,
Bryan
He's in
Cranston.
it for half the movie.
He's in it for half an hour, and they
His
murder
actual,
him.
they go back to flashbacks and stuff maybe, but like
Yeah,
his
if
character
you
is like
total it up.
done.
Yeah, but if you total it up, he's in half the movie. He's in half the runtime.
Sure.
He's fine.
Okay. Anyway, that's my week. Not super long. Well, yeah.
Mine'll be even shorter. We beat 14, and I'm not going to spoil anything because the story is still too new. I'm just going to say that when Alex and I beat it, we loved it. So
Okay, good.
That
was gonna be my only question, like, how did you like it? Yeah.
If I had to rank it, I don't know. This might not be the same as Alex's, so I won't speak for him. But for me, if I was going to rank it, I don't think I think it falls below Endwalker and Shadowbringers for me, but above Heaven's Word, Stormblood, and A Realm of War. So I'd put it as my number 3.
Nice.
I don't know where I would rank it, to be honest with you. I would probably agree with you. I like. There's some parts of it where I look at it and go like, I think that might actually be my number 2. But there
Yeah.
was also, when I think back on it, there's some things where like we kind of predicted, like we kind of saw
This
some of the
is-
telegraphs. So.
This is my addendum to it. So I think if I was just taking it, I'm ranking it story wise. Story wise, I would put it for number 3. There is some predictable moments to it, but it's still, again, I think it's the Wuklamot show. If you don't like her, you're not gonna like it. If you do like her, like I find her very endearing. So seeing her journey through that stuff, it was really well received on my part. That being said, if I was going to rate the content of this expansion, like the dungeons, the trials, we haven't done the raid yet. It just came out today as of this recording, so we'll, by the time you hear it, we'll have already done it. But all of that stuff has been the best that they've ever done by,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, a massive, massive amount. So if I'm rating it on that, it's number 1 all the way. And it's better than anything they've ever done. And it's so much so that when you go back to older content, it feels like you're playing a game that's you're playing like on slow-mo. Because there's so much telegraphing for mechanics and things like that, which is fine, they're a lot, but it's just they ramped up the difficulty so much in this one that you have to be on your toes, like really to not fuck it up. But yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was great. Still playing Trails, also very good, and that's it.
Okay. Real quick before we start, Alex, did you know who the last boss is? Like, have you actually seen the last boss yet? Of Elden Ring?
yeah, that shit was spoiled for me like within days.
And I can leave this out or bleep it, whatever. But hey, everyone, we will be discussing very vague details about the Elden Ring end bosses. So base game final boss and DLC final boss. That lasts for about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So this is a warning. It'll start in 3, 2, 1, start. As a person who's been launching Final Fantasy 12 here and there, every Final Fantasy has that key art piece that shows like a character or something like that's happening in the game. Final Fantasy 12 will have this big giant character with these 2 long swords. And every time I'm watching somebody play that final boss in Eldry, like all I think about is that silhouette I see every time I pop up Final Fantasy 12.
You know what? That actually tracks.
Edition, yeah, for
Yeah.
the Zodiac
Is that just
edition,
me?
it has that
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, for sure.
It does.
Okay.
It 100% does. I hadn't thought about that until you said it, but now that you say it, I had that game with the box art, and yes, it's.
Because every time I pop it up, I'm like, that looks like that guy. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Everybody
we'll talk about
just
this,
biting off Amano's art for his entire life, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about this as we get like to our game of the year or whatever when this comes up later. I'm not going to worry about it now. But Christian, like, how did you feel with that person being the final boss? Because to me, I go like, I kind of would have appreciated something brand new, and you just made this boss that was kind of hard last time like really hard this time, which is a weird thing to me.
So, lore-wise,
Makes sense.
it makes a lot of sense. From my perspective, I think it's lame. But
Okay.
that being said, like I don't even
Maybe have that boss be
I
the
don't wanna
second
get
to
into it
last
now.
boss, and then have something new at the end.
well, not even just that.
well-
I think that I think the problem is that like again, I get it from a story perspective, but you just I don't know. Like I understand why it had to be him, but I think that FromSoft, outside of 2 games, which is the first Dark Souls and then Bloodborne, they have never, ever been good at final bosses.
Nah.
Do you think this was an overcorrection because like there was kind of a lot of pushback in the final boss of the base game because they're like, oh, I mean we're in this fantasy world, but then you brought this like celestial being and it doesn't even tie into the game. Like,
No,
do you think they
'cause-
overcorrected?
No, because FromSoft barely listens to to people's feedback. they listen to like bugs and other things, but as far as
Sure.
like what they create, Miyazaki could give a fuck
Yeah,
less.
and that's my world.
And
If you don't like it,
I
walk away.
appreciate that. I do.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that in a bad way. But
Yeah.
but Miyazaki knew what he was. He came out earlier and was like, before the DLC launched, he was like, as in his opinion, that final boss is, he believes, the hardest they can ever make something. He thinks that he has found the ceiling.
Yeah, tone it back. Yeah.
To the boss, because he still says he hasn't made his best game. So he thinks the boss was the hardest they've ever done. Interesting.
He's talking about difficulty, wise.
Yeah.
He's saying from a difficulty perspective, he thinks that he has found the ceiling for what they can reasonably ask of
Like
players.
make it fair, but make it hard.
Yeah, and again, he's talking about somebody who, if you're just trying to play it like solo, or not even just solo, but like with game, like obviously there's ways now that people have found to cheese this particular boss, and but if you were to do it through normal means, he believe, and I would agree, but he believes that they have found the ceiling. So whatever they do from here, they would have to figure out other ways to augment the difficulty if they wanted to up the ante. I honestly, though, with the success of Armored Core, I bet you, now that they have this DLC out, you probably see FromSoft let Souls simmer for a little bit on their end.
I mean, but like, we kind of said that after Elden Ring, and it was only 6 months, and there was rumors of a DLC, right? A year later, there was a DLC.
It was 2 years. It took them 2 years to get
Was
this
it?
DLC
Okay.
out. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I just think there's so much in that game that they need to sit for a little bit.
I think they could not make another Elden Ring game for 5 to 7 years if, before that time frame was up, they released a PC port at 60 frames a second for Bloodborne. And that's such a weird thing to say, but I truly think that would satiate the fan base enough where they would go back and play Bloodborne, and people would act like it was a new game, right? You wouldn't even have to release another one. Be like, here you go, PC port, and people would lose their mind over it.
I would. I'd be one of those people. I'd be stoked if they released a PC port of Bloodborne, but the problem is that it's not on them, it's on Sony.
Yeah.
And I think that we'd have better luck of Sony greenlighting them to go and put a 60 FPS patch on the PS5 version before we got
God,
a PC port.
they would charge another $10 more to upgrade.
Oh, just for the patch, I bet you they would. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Next gen patch. Pay for it.
Yeah, and
That's
they
what they
would just
did.
be
That's what
like,
they did with
Last of Us.
Last of Us. Yeah, exactly.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
that fucking check writes itself.
People keep buying it.
All right.
Well, as far as my week's concerned, definitely got into some more KOTOR. We are now in Kashyyyk. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing with Tatooine. Just fucking up some slavers, man. Just find a place where they want to enslave some more people, and I'm saying, nah, fam. I was wanting to go gray/light this run, but every time these slavers popping up, I'm like, Pop's got to take care of some business, and that means I'm probably going to have to kill some people and get some dark side points here and there. But we got the last companion, as Jolee. He is the gray Jedi hanging out, old hermit man on Kashyyyk, so he's not going to be palling around with us. But yeah, KOTOR's been good. Got all my purple lightsabers now, so we're all set as far as that's concerned. But yeah, KOTOR's been good. Feel free to catch us Sunday mornings, twitch.tv/testingroompod. We're there, 9:30 a.m. Next up would be Zenless Zone Zero. I've been kind of dabbling here and there whenever I get 45 minutes to an hour at the end of my day. I'm like, there's nothing really to watch. I'll pop this on real quick, put something on the background. It's been good. It's been fun. I'm still going through menus, still going through tutorials on that game. So it's just sooner or later I'll get to the end game. And it'll literally be the only thing I can do is play for about 45 minutes to an hour. Because there's a currency that you have to use to play these missions. They're end game missions. So unless you're willing to pay more money, you could play more. I'm not that guy. At least not right now, I'm not that guy. So I'll just play my 45 minutes or whatever a day and we'll be fine. I don't even do that.
This is literally every one of those little gambling games that they make for children on the iOS store that's free to play, and they sell energy pods for $3 a pop for you to keep playing.
If you want to play more,
it's
you got to pay us
literally
$5
that for
today.
adults.
Yeah. No, a lot of games do it. I've seen it here and there, so it's nothing too new.
A lot of
games do it, though?
gotcha games do it. A lot of gotcha.
Okay, I was like, do a lot of games do it?
Yeah,
Really?
we gotta be
Funny,
specific.
funny little detail. The people who are getting paid to play that game on Twitch, they had a sign disclaimer that says that you cannot say the word gotcha while playing this game if you want to get paid by us. So that was fun.
And this is why I would love to be wealthy, but it'll never happen like that because I can't sell my soul.
Yeah,
Like, it's not gonna
You know
happen.
what's funny is that there's audio evidence of you saying I'll do
For certain
whatever it
things.
needs to do
For
for a check.
No, not whatever. I'm sure there was like some small stipulation, like I'm not gonna give in to a gacha game. Like, it's not
I
gonna
don't
happen.
think you said.
think
I
you
remember
said
saying if a company wants me to say something and the check is big enough, I'm ready to say it.
Everyone's got a price.
We all know that my morals may be thin, but some of them exist.
But my wallet is thinner.
Yeah, so you get that bitch thick.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it's still the same game. Combat's been phenomenal. I get a new character every couple of days, so we'll see how it holds up. Other than that, dabbled a little
Keep that
bit.
wheel turning, baby.
Hey, we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes. Diablo 4.
Gotta take that money from Snap and put it somewhere. His bank account's just filling up.
The money goes into my savings account, so that way I can get out of this apartment. So we're not spending money on that game. Next game up was I dabbled a little bit in Diablo 4. I was having an itch to try a different build. So I respect, and I'm now going with the corpse explosion leveling build. So I got all my little skeletons, my little skeleton army back. So they're doing their damage. I'm dropping debuffs on enemies and making corpse explodes. So it's a lot of fun. Just right now, I'm just putting on those debuffs and then making sure I don't spend my mana too fast, and that's kind of how that build goes. But it's good. I do want to get back more into it with Christian whenever we get some time. But
I know we got to get back because I want to try to get to next
70.
difficulty.
Yeah, so it's good, but we've been a little sidetracked because we've been playing some Destiny 2 Final Shape.
Oh yeah, fuck.
Going
I
through that
totally
story.
forgot.
So we're about 6-7 hours into that Final Shape story. We got about 2 missions left. That game starts
Plus
off.
whatever else. But
Yeah, like, hey, you got the DLC. You're playing the DLC. Like, oh yeah, and it's like if you get out of that and go to the tower or anything, it's like, hey, don't do any of the extra new content because you will be spoiled from the story if you do any of this other content. So like, if you're gonna play the game and not go into old stuff, you need to finish the story. So the story's been good. Art design is fucking phenomenal. Level design and everything that goes into it looks great. Like a lot of verticality and crazy ways of going about certain boss battles and stuff like that. There was one time you're fighting one enemy and they have a shield on. The only way you get the shield down is by slamming these 2 pieces of light into these hand things. And so you go into the 2 separate rooms, you pick up that piece of light, and it fucking turns into an Indiana Jones movie. The walls start closing in on you, so you got to get out before that happens.
In my room, lava started filling up, and I had to try to run up and jump up to get out of it before the lava filled the room and killed me.
It was coming down from the bottom, so like I'm trying to get there as fast as possible, and then the door closes, and it just you gave you just enough time to where you have to actually slide through it. I'm like, man, I just need an Indiana Jones hat right now. I literally just did the fucking movie thing. So it's a lot of fun. I changed up. I changed up, but the game will change up your play style a little bit as you get like more powers and stuff. I like the pacing
for the
that they
new
did with
prismatic
that.
for the new prismatic.
They
class.
don't just dump the whole entire class on you. They give it to you, and then they give you like piecemeal of stuff that you can add to that class, which is a great way of doing it. I think that's a great way of
Everybody
pacing
gets
it
a
out.
new super.
Everyone gets a new super. My Titan super, I'm just throwing down. I think it like slams down 3 of these giant battle axes that do like area damage, but then those axes are now on the ground for even your teammates to pick up. So like I could be doing my super, and not only are you getting orbs from my super, but like also there's just a axe you can go pick up there real quick and just use that and toss it yourself, which I think is a lot of fun. That's a real interesting idea.
I will be on that game with you when I get home eventually.
Oh,
but
we'll
unfortunately,
go through it again with you.
Their anti-cheat doesn't work on Steam Deck, so
It's a bummer.
Yeah, it was. I've been very pleasantly. I totally forgot about that thing. Yeah, no, I've been very pleasantly surprised by it, and the story so far. So far we haven't finished it.
It's
but
supposed
so
to be
far,
the final of the arc, so it's giving us good stuff here and there.
Yeah, but so far it totally makes sense why it's the highest rated Destiny related thing that's ever been released.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, I've been liking it. It's been good. I made a little joke because, of course, last time we played this, they were doing like a Ghostbuster event, and I bought the Ghostbuster ship. So I booted up, like, yeah, there's my $20 ship right there. I think I spent like $15 and got like that in a Slimer ghost or skin or whatever. But like, yeah, there's my $20 right there. First fucking scene you have, you crash your ship and you don't see the ship the rest of the fucking like DLC so far at least. And so I'm like, just paid $20 fucking for that thing to see it get crashed in. I'm not gonna be able to look at the fucking thing in the entire game. But of course, we'll go do strikes and stuff like that later on the end game and raids and stuff like that. To where I'll see it just fine. But yeah, I just thought that was fucking funny. To where it's like, oh, there's my cool new Ecto ship. I'm like, oh, it gets crashed and you don't get to see it again. So I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. So, but yeah, that's all I did. Before we get into the next game, I do kind of want to mention something about it. But other than that, that's my week. Shows are shows. Nothing too crazy to report from there. My Hero's going fucking nonstop, balls to the wall. It's been crazy. But other than that, yeah, nothing too fancy and new for me. My Hulu doesn't have ads now, so that's nice.
You said my Hulu will forever have ads because they can go F themselves and they think they're going to get another fucking dime from
Facts.
these sons of bitches. Yeah. If they think like, oh, we've done the math on how much we can charge people to get them to like pay because ads are annoying. Yeah, challenge accepted.
Yeah,
I'll watch ads for hours before you get another dollar. Anyway,
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Comic Headquarters. If you are looking for a trade paperback or hardcover, the guys over at Comic Headquarters can help. Even if they don't have what you're looking for, they'll offer to order it in for you. Visit comichqstl.com today, where you can contact them and order that trade paperback or hardcover that you've been looking for. Or give them a call at 314-433-5449. Let them know that the testing room sent you, and you can get 10% off your order.
so Preston, you want to say something about the game we played tonight?
Yeah, we'll get into the game. Real quick, I did go back and watch like the first couple missions of the original versions of Mafia. That game, outside of the story itself and what you do in those levels, because the levels are the same, the story is pretty much the same, dialogue is completely rewritten. The actors are all brand new and are much higher quality. Obviously, the game looks 1,000 times better, but there's so much of a difference as far as quality. I was telling Christian, I was watching the second mission, the one to where like you get your first combat mission essentially, outside of like the cars thing. But you go to that bar out in the middle of nowhere, and you're supposed to sneak around the back, yada yada yada. This guy goes into it, and like as they're starting it, and you kind of see the beats of the story that you saw in the new game or the new version, but it's pretty much the same exact thing. They go inside, they come running out. But there is this fucking bird chirping sound effect they use the entire time, no matter what you're doing. It's louder than anything else, and it's like the same 15 seconds. And all your in the cutscenes and the dialogue, everything, you just hear this overly loud bird chirping. I'm like, this is that older school quality. You definitely tell this was done by a small team from a different country, and it's not the greatest, most like cleanest production value for sure. Especially when you go into hear all the dialogue, like just like the Irish police officer and Tommy talking to each other at like the diner, like that dialogue is atrocious in the original game. Like,
yeah,
it is
that's what
bad.
Alex was saying last time.
So I kept up tracking what's new and old. So I watched every mission. And I have a couple of notes on the dialogue.
I'm excited to hear that.
A few
but one thing
videos.
I saw the person playing it, what they did was, so you know that game, that level, you go sneak around the back, you go do your whole fight scene in the bar, and the dude runs off with the case of money.
Yeah.
This guy, before he even starts going around the back, he pops the tires of the car that's sitting out front. So when he goes outside the front to get in the car, so you have that whole chase scene. That whole chase scene is no longer there anymore. You just take him out in front of his car because he can't leave.
Incredible.
I'm like, I wonder if that would work. I'm thinking about just touching that mission because I'm pretty sure you can do mission selects. I'm like, I kind of just want to go back there and see if that's still possible.
You can do mission selects. You can go back and do it. There's a mission that we played this week where I skipped everything the game wanted me to do.
I think I did too. We'll get there when we get there, but I think I did the same thing. Towards the end, yeah, I think I did the same thing.
Yeah, and just finished it. The game was like, I don't know what to do. Okay, moving on. I was like, okay.
We'll get there. Yeah, I think I did the same thing.
All right. So we're going to start off with Mission 6. This is our video game book club, Mafia Definitive Edition Part 2. And this mission is called Sarah, two characters, Tommy and Sarah. Essentially, if we pick up from where we left off last time, I think it's right where we left off, or is the cutscene in the beginning? I forget. But Sarah's dad is like, "Hey, Tommy, you're such a good kid." Luigi. I don't know why I had to say it like that. That's cultural appropriation.
That's what he did.
Offensive.
This is racist. Okay.
So we go to Luigi, and he's like, "Hey, Tommy, you're such a good kid. Do me a favor, like walk my daughter home. She's had these guys that have been messing with her. So go ahead and just, if you wouldn't care, show them what's what." And clearly, like, there's an issue, but Luigi knows. He's like, Tommy's a good kid. I like Tommy, right? These other guys, Sam and Paulie, don't trust them.
There's a part where he says, like Tommy agrees. He's like, yeah, of course, anything for you. And Luigi like leans forward and he like holds his hands and he's just like, it's this. I thought the only reason I took a note of it is because it's how long the pause is afterwards. But Luigi's like, Bendy, and then Tommy just goes.
He does.
And he like holds it for like 30 seconds where he's like, all right. And I'm like, dude, this would have been so awkward, man.
It's so funny. So Tommy leaves. He's like, hey, Sarah, let's go. I'm going to walk you home. Then he says, like, Tommy's going to walk you home. He's like, all right, let me get my jacket. So you walk outside. And before we go home, Sarah just has her own stuff to do. So she's walking around and she's essentially delivering food to somebody that's nearby. It seems like maybe another family member is in the mob or has...
Well, it's a friend of hers that she knows that the Don knows, like, the girl's grandmother and
takes
this whole
care
thing, so they bring the extra food over from the day and give it to her.
So her name's Nuna, who they're talking to, as I think I will refer to her from now on, which is Miss Inconsistent Accent.
No, so
she can...
I don't remember the girl's name, but she says Nona as in her grandmother. She's calling for her grandmother. Oh. I don't remember the girl's name, but Nona is the grandmother.
Well, either way, this lady is not a terrible voice actor, but the worst that we've come across so far, because she drops between like 4 different accents, and she's not sure, like, should I keep the Sicilian accent? Should I just do this like 1920s New York accent? Like, I'm not really sure what to do. She can't hold it. No, which is pretty funny.
Did you guys have the same freezing thing where after like they hand her the food and they're like waiting for a second? She's like, and she's like, everybody knows about you, Tommy. And then it's like, okay. And I was like, oh, did the game freeze? And then it was like, and you see like everybody like cut into place, and they're like, anyways, all right. And they shut the door, and then he's like, no, I got the food, blah blah blah. And I was like, ooh, that was.
That's not the only time it happened in the entire game to me. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Something's happening.
I had it happen a few times too, and I like to call that the 2K launcher running in the background.
Sure.
It could be.
It could be, yeah.
There's just that 2K magic, baby. You know?
2K magic,
So we continue walking for Sarah, and I love this dialogue. Like, none of the dialogue is overly good. I just thought it was, like, really funny. So Tommy's like, oh, nice night for a walk. And Sarah just looks over, she's like, you spend all day with that lady killer Sam over there, and, like, all you got is nice night for a walk, you idiot. Like, ooh, you're really going to win me over. I know what you're doing.
And the best part is his response where he's like, I mean, it is a nice night, isn't it?
Yeah, and so she's like, yeah, it is super nice. And then you walk past this peddler for flowers, like, flower for the lady? And he's like, no, not tonight. Which I did appreciate because he gave it right back. She's like, oh, what, I'm not good enough for a flower? And he's like, no, like, maybe we go out on a real date, you get flowers. But right now, no. But it was, I thought this scene was really good. And we'll talk about why in a minute. But I think they did a really good job at, like, character building here and kind of getting this, like, flirty but serious relationship thing going on. On top of that, again, this entire second playthrough, they just nail the environment. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed. I'm playing on Steam Deck, right? You're playing on PC. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you noticed, like, the reflections in the water on the sidewalk and just, like, the billboards all around. Like, they absolutely killed.
Looks great.
Just the world. It looks incredible, right? So we come around the corner, and the guys giving Sarah a hard time are there, and this is some of the dialogue parts that get pretty good. but they're like, hey, we know who you work for. You know, it's like, it's only a matter of time before Morello punches your ticket. It's like, first of all,
Well, he punches Salieri's ticket.
I don't know why you're being, I don't know why you're being like, I didn't say anything. I'm just walking a lady home. You guys are being a bunch of assholes, right? And then one guy is like, he says something where he's like, not before they call me, and he's like, cake eater, and I'm like, what kind of insult is cake eater? Like, what are you even
30s
saying?
racism slur that we don't know.
Yeah, so we're going in, and it turns into a thing, right? Like, it turns into a fight, and we have to take care of business because apparently the night before, even though these guys have baseball bats and knives, all they did was kind of like catcall Sarah. But then I come around, and it's like a straight up brawl for no reason. Like, I don't know how we went from like catcalling to literally trying to stab me in the street.
Well, so all he says was, so they are like, they make some shitty comment where they're like, oh, don't be like that. Your boyfriend over here can watch, like, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, fuck you guys, just, like, I'm giving you a chance to walk away. And they're like, oh, fuck you, and they say the thing about Salieri, and then you're like, ooh, we're not scared of you. And he's like, no, I wouldn't even call them. I don't need them for you guys. And then that was the comment. As soon as he says, I don't need them for you guys, like, I can just handle this right here, they're like, all right, then. And then they just, like, immediately, like, bats, everything. They're just, like, ready, knives, they're ready to go.
And it turned into the thing. Like, we had to fight 3 or 4 guys in this little lot area. Sarah has been, like, off around the corner. She has 2 guys, like, literally maybe trying to rape her in the
That's exactly what was
giving her
happening.
trouble
in the alley. Yeah, and, like, I don't know if I necessarily picked up, like, that's what was going to happen necessarily, but the dialogue in the game multiple times afterwards do say,
Definitely.
like, Sarah almost got raped. They tried to rape, right? So, like, clearly that's where they were going. So it turned into a thing. Now, in the scuffle, we get cut. So Sarah sees that we're bleeding. She's like, "Oh, come up to my place. Like, let's get you cleaned up." Right? So we go upstairs, and there's some.
You beat the
pretty
brakes
good-
off all these people, by the way.
We do, yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, we do, right?
Yeah.
But I love the whole like going upstairs sort of thing, and us like, we're in. Like, we've made it upstairs, and she's like,
You even eyeball the
literally-
bed when you get up there.
You do, and
And
she's
she's like,
well,
banks closed.
she does straight up, just like bangs clothes and walks over and sits on the couch. This is important, so remember that, right? So you walk over, you sit on the couch, you're like, roll your sleeve up. Let's get you taken care of. And she walks off, and she comes back with liquor. She's like, hey, I got a bottle courtesy of the Don. Like, it's prohibition, so she takes a swig of whiskey. And my first thought is like, do I really want the person about to sew on me like just slamming shots? If I am cut, I should probably be slamming shots. But I don't know that I need my doctor slamming shots. And she just like, she finishes up, she's like, oh, not my best work. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, not quit drinking then. Like, I don't want this patchwork of a sewing thing like going on. I want to legit, if this was a thing, I could have just gone to the hospital. Like, I'm not dying. I could have just gone over there versus
because
have
the
your like
hospital starts asking
ham-handed
too many questions.
have this ham hand. I cut my hand on glass, man. I don't know, but like you're over here using crochet needles to stitch me up,
And you should be
like,
so lucky.
I literally have in my note. She's like, "Oh," and she finishes with "not my best work," and I just have "what the fuck?" Like, should I have not just gone to a real doctor then?
And then instead, Tommy 2 brain cells over here is like, oh, well, at least I'll have a nice score to remember you by, dork.
I don't. We know we have a doctor on the payroll. We see him later. We could have got like a legit fix to this little paper cut we have. So I do have the note. Like, when we came up, it was kind of funny how she's like, take a load off, and we say something. She's like, bank is closed. But I also love there at the end where they're sitting on the couch, and Tommy's like, oh, it's cold. Do you have a blanket? She's like, no, I only have one blanket, and the heat's out. And then she just curls up to him. I know, and it's like, come on, lady, what are we doing? bank closed, bank not closed. Like, what's going on here? If you want us to leave, I'll leave. But let's go send in mixed signals.
I love that your idea is you're just sitting there like, I'm getting a lot of mixed signals right now, Sarah. This is upsetting to me.
So that's kind of it. Like, this mission was definitely a relationship building mission.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Tommy has a wife and a kid. We find that out as he's talking to Detective Norman earlier, right? So this is definitely setting up for what's to come. And I honestly, all in all, like, I thought it was pretty cute and wholesome.
Sure.
Like, it was a good little mission, good little world building mission. I
still don't know whether the bank is open or not, but
I like Sarah's character. I think
She's
they did a
not
really good
as
job
much
setting her up.
of a damsel in distress, because she still takes like one dude out, like kicks him in the crotch. She's like, "You got a good left hook. I'll give you that." And she's like, she's not all like scared and like upset, like damsel in distress kind of deal.
Funny you say that, Preston.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the OG game. So Sarah starts with a guy named Lucas, who we have not met. He has been cut from the game completely. His whole mission in this game is to give you side missions. And every side mission is him just boosting cars. This is half of the content that shortened the time of this game.
Sure.
So essentially he's like, hey, we got a car parked illegally, wink, wink, why don't you go help it out and take it. Like, that's literally like the first 10 minutes of this mission. So anyway, when Sarah actually kicks off, same thing, right? Like, there's guys that are messing with her, but I have a note here, Preston, like, this is that damsel in distress, like, gotta save the princess vibe. She talks about how terrifying they were and how scared she was the night before, and, like, she needs somebody to give her protection. So then, as you're walking in, these guys are standing there, and this guy's like, hey, Dollface, yesterday's use was alone, and today use with the man. What's going on? It was like, the voice acting,
It's bad.
is incredible,
Dude,
and the
imagine
dialogue is so bad.
imagine the new studio that has to come, like when like this new team is going over it, and they're like, oh man, okay, so we're gonna have to rewrite this whole video game, blah blah blah, and they get to all these different scenes, and they're like, oh, we could do whatever, and it would be better than this.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Just hit the beats.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah.
It was, my note literally just says, like, it was spectacularly bad. So when the fight breaks out, Sarah takes off sprinting, and her character is just screaming, like, help, like, we're being attacked, oh my gosh, help me, and just, like, runs away. So same thing ensues. We beat everybody up. We find her cowering behind a dumpster in an alley, worried she's, like, gonna be attacked, right? She takes us upstairs. She takes us upstairs, and she starts to stitch us up. That's all the same, but she's like, hey, do you want anything to drink? And Tommy's like, oh, whiskey, if you got it, versus, like, her just bringing it out. And she's like, okay, it does. Tommy, instead of sitting on the couch, sits on her bed. And he literally bounces up and down on it, and he goes, well, this night is getting interesting. Literally is the dialogue.
He's like, anyway, it looks like the bank might be open.
So Sarah comes in.
About to make a deposit.
She was wearing a jacket. Her jacket's off now, so she's wearing like a white blouse. And she goes, do you swing? And Tommy goes, what? And she's like, do you dance? Do you like to dance? And you like the music? He's like, yeah, I like music. She's like, okay. So she walks over, she turns on the gramophone, and what happens? Sex. Literally neck kissing, and the next thing is you have, what do I have here? 2001 Polygon naked body gyrating is straight up what it is. There's no nudity, but it's him on top of her in their polygons, and they're just going back and forth. And it switched to a Tommy voiceover, and he goes, Sarah was an angel. I had a lot of girls before that, but this was different. It was clear to me if I was going to spend the rest of my life with someone, it was going to be her. And Christian, to your point, you are right. They literally looked at this and said, we can do whatever in the hell we want.
We should
anything.
do something different.
And honestly, like, the changes, like, are way better. I'd rather see this, like, tough girl who's been in the mob forever because her dad's been in there, right? She knows the business. She knows she has friends and protect. She's not scared. And the fact that she's like, I'm not the damsel in distress. I don't need you, right? Like, if sex happens, I say so. Like, it's not because you just, like, saved me or whatever. It was a much better change. She's a much better character. But I also love that it's just like, yeah, you're right. The bank was open. Like, and maybe that was the joke. Like, maybe because the people that played the original game were playing this one and they were expecting that scene, and the team's like, no, we're not going to do it that way. Like, maybe I just wasn't in on it.
The woke is canceling our Mafia game.
The woke is canceling. Hey, millennials hate boobs. That's what I hear.
That's true.
They're ruining boobs.
And everything
So,
I don't like is woke, like we said last week.
there you go. So that ends the chapter. The next chapter up is chapter 7. Better get used to it. And pretty quickly in this game, shit starts to hit the fan. So we open with a meeting between us and Salieri. We're talking about Sarah, and Salieri is like, "This is ridiculous. Like, this can't stand. Even though you took care of it, like, we can't have these thugs
'Cause
just out on the street. There has
Tommy
to be
does try to
repercussion."
downplay it, where he's like, "Boss, I beat the shit out of him. Like,
Taken care of.
no big
Yeah.
deal. They got a bunch of broken ribs, everything. Like, not a big deal."
Salieri gets a little pissy. He's like, "Yeah, don't care. Like, we're gonna do it worse." So he's like, "I want you to go find them, break their legs, bust them up, put them in wheelchairs, make it to where their own moms don't recognize them, right? Like, don't kill them." He didn't say kill, but he's like, make it a bad day for everybody. So we head up to go see Vinny. We get a gun, and what else does he give us? Because like, they didn't say kill people. He gives us some baseball bats. And I just thought it was hysterical. He pulls out like 3 of these huge baseball bats from like nowhere. And he's just like, "Here you go," and just drops them on the thing. Now, in the OG game, everything is pretty similar up to this point. But Vinny brings out a bat and he says, "This one's signed by MVP of the league." Like, I don't know which is the league.
No,
and
no,
Tommy
he-
says,
No, he
"No, this
says-
is this
Oh,
is
you're
the
saying
OG."
the old one. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
okay.
So just the difference, and Tommy's like, "Wow, it really is. This really is his bat?" And he goes, "To tell you the truth, no." And that's
So bad. So bad.
Incredible. Incredible.
so. We hop in the car. We're gonna go find these guys, and I thought there was some great there's some great dialogue here in the car. And there is amazing radio dialogue in almost every mission that we play tonight. But this one specifically was like, is the radio talking about the economic struggles? They've like led it to rise of the mob and like increasing violence. But last year, the police started this gang task force known as the Rat Catchers. It was just interesting. I wondered if any of this is going to come into play. Later dialogue in the game talks about one of the airships, like the blimps going down, and how many people died, how they were saved by like a German U-boat. There's also some stuff talking about like it's almost like a president, like Roosevelt or Eisenhower's like this fireside chat where they're saying like the people need to come together and quit this violence, and just some really good quotes that they did. So I think even like the static noise just happening in the background is amazing. So, either way, we get to our destination. We meet Polly in Chinatown, and we make our way to Biff's shop. Biff is this guy that everybody kind of knows around that is an information guy, right? Like, he knows things. So we're trying to find these punks. We go to Biff because Biff probably knows stuff, and we need to teach a lesson to them. So
They also drop a little racism in here.
Do they? So the only one I caught was the first line where Polly walks in and he goes, "Biff, you fat bastard, how you doing?" Like,
No,
that
right
was-
before that, they're walking down. He's like, "So what's the deal with Biff? Like, why is he, living over here?"
Oh, he got yellow fever.
Yeah.
and they're walking through.
And then even Tommy goes, "Whoa, that's all right."
Yep. Yeah, I forgot they said that. I didn't make note of that, but you're right. Just casual. Just casual.
Mm-hmm.
So Biff is telling us, like, hey, those guys that hang out at a place around the corner, you're going to go over there and F them up. And we're like, sweet, we're about to go. And then all of a sudden, Biff kind of turns to Polly and makes a comment about some money. Like, hey, you got that money? And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, we'll get it, whatever. We walk outside, and all of a sudden, we're like, yo, like, Polly, what the fuck was that? Like, you got a side gig going on? And he just talks about how he and Biff are making a deal. He has an in on these custom suits, Mexican custom suits coming in, and like the suits are from Mexico. It's like, no, the tailor is from Mexico, but they're really nice suits, and we have them coming to us, and we learned that Paulie literally has a side gig going on. We're like, hey, does the Don know about this? And he's like, yeah, like the Don will get us cut. Just keep it under your hat for now. So clearly the Don doesn't know. Paulie's going rogue. And my note just says this. And this man is either going to get us into some deep shit, or he's going to be the first one we have to Fredo. So I don't
thought
know.
he was
if we're
like the
gonna have
person
to-
leaking the information after a while. I'm like, oh, if he's doing his own side gig shit, like maybe he's the one leaking information and not giving a shit.
I have notes on who I thought too. It wasn't Pauly. I mean, I talked about Pauly last time. I thought he was weird. I have notes too, and now we get to the end, we find out, and
Yeah,
I just
what
haven't
the
gone back and
answer
change
is,
them.
yeah.
But yeah, I'll call my stuff out too as it comes. But yeah, that's a good call because it is a little like that's my thing, right? Like this dude's doing some stuff. He's already a hothead. We know he's a little jealous of us by the way he's talking in our last playthrough. Like I like Pauly, but you can't right now. Like I feel like I can't trust him, right? And if he's doing this, like I'm not going down with this man. So in the OG game, just a funny little thing. The guy's name is Bill, not Biff, and it's just a random dude standing in a park. He's not in Chinatown. I don't know why any of that mattered, but he's there. We do meet Biff later. I'll tell you that when we get there. So we go over across the street, and what happens? Like a fight breaks out. We go with these bats, and like pretty soon it's apparent like there's way too many dudes, and they got guns. These bats aren't going to cut it. So we get into a full blown gunfight, and I don't know how recently you guys played this. I played it last week. I just have a note.
Played
The
today.
music in the scene's amazing. Like the music in this gunfight was incredible. So, also, how did you guys do this? Did you go up top and shoot down into the courtyard from the balcony? Did anybody shoot the flame
Explosion.
barrels?
Yeah, hell
So
yeah,
I did.
dude.
So here's the thing. So I did, and then I reloaded, and I didn't do it because I didn't know if there was going to be something. I wanted to see if there would be something special, and there is different dialogue during the mission, but I don't think it changes how anybody responds to it after the fact. But so like if you blow up if you shoot the gas can in the courtyard, it sets like it kills a bunch of people, and then like an electrical line falls over, and it's this whole thing, and then when you come down the stairs, Paulie opens the door and he's like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Like he's like freaked out. Whereas like if you don't do that, he's just like, all right, Tom, let's go get these dorks. Like he's just normal. But
I have the note. If you shoot all the flame barrels, Paulie just starts yelling, holy shit! Like it's very...
yeah.
So I'm glad you did that. My fear was that when everything was on fire, I might lose out on a collectible. Because I've been trying to look for them. I haven't looked up a guide. I've just been scouring. So it's good to know, like, not a whole lot changed other than dialogue. Because the explosion was definitely worth it. Like, it was way cool.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
So we take out almost everybody except for two guys who hop in a car and they just start running. So what do? We
The
have
main
to chase
two
them,
guys.
right? The main two guys. So we get in a car, we chase them. They eventually wreck. We chase them for a while. They wreck this car, and they're in bad shape. Like, one dude looks dead, like, right out of the gate. And the other dude can't really move, and you walk up, and he's crying, and Paulie looks at us, he's like, Captain. And we're just kind of holding there, and the guy starts crying, he's like, I don't want to die, right? And it's like, kind of a moment, and Tommy doesn't pull the trigger. So Paulie does, and it's just like, boom, and like,
Then
done.
he's like, Jesus Christ, Tommy, fucking get it together. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you can't just sit around. Like, if this were the other way around, they wouldn't wait on you. Like,
Still
they're
a
bad
rapist.
guys.
Yeah.
You got to do it, right? So he walks to the other side of the car, and he puts, I think he shoots a guy in the chest.
Yeah. Somewhere in the
twice, or
torso.
does-
Yeah.
And he goes to shoot him in the head, and he's out of bullets, but, like, we're good, right?
So
Yeah, go
At
ahead.
this part, I just want to say, this was one of my least favorite things that has been in this game so far, and and I don't think in the
The
history
scene itself?
the scene
or
itself.
Okay.
and I don't think there's ever been any piece of media that could ever do this correctly, and I wish that people would avoid it. But so Tommy has this moment, right? Like Alex said, where you're sitting there and he's holding the gun to the kid's head, and the kid's like, "Oh, I don't want to die," and Tommy completely freezes up. And then afterwards, I'll just go like, when he goes home, he's also like completely shaken up by the whole event, and Sarah, sees it and just hugs him, and he just doesn't move, and then kind of hugs her back a little bit, blah, blah. And it's supposed to be like, oh, look at how much this affected Tommy, and blah, blah, blah. The problem with that is that leading up to that moment, Tommy killed 45 people
Yep.
and had no issues whatsoever. It's similar to, if you guys remember the new version of the Tomb Raider games, right?
Yeah.
And
where Laura turns into an assassin instantly.
Instantly, she kills that deer, and she's like, "Oh, but I'm so sorry." And then she kills the one guy on accident after there's the whole scene, and they're supposed
like,
to
game on.
supposed to thing. And then she's like, "Oh my god," like shaking and blah blah blah. And then right after that, she's like, "Bing, bing, 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 bing," and it's just like, and then it says headshot plus 200, and you're like, okay, like it's just. Now this game doesn't do that part.
You're right. I forgot how egregious that is.
Yes, it's ridiculous. But again, that's my point: is that no game has ever done this well. Like, and I wish that people would try to avoid doing this plot point, or if you do it, you have to do it like you have to
You
allow.
can't use guns. You have to beat people with bats until this point. You can't.
And not only that,
You
but
can't
you have to
murder with guns.
You have to do things. You would have to make the gameplay so slow, like in a build up to the point where you could kill somebody. Like you have to be like, your punches don't work so well. You don't like you're not in it, right? Like this, you'd have to do so many things to really sell the idea of, this person evolves into a killer, like is slowly changed that way. And I don't know that a single movie, game, book, anything has ever done it right, because it always is like this person's first kill is like, now this game doesn't even do that, but it's like the first kill is like this most traumatic thing, and then afterwards they're just right into being a fucking Rambo. But in this one, it's like, I thought it was so weird when I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, I agree. One of the only times that I would do this so far in this playthrough, I agree with Paulie where he's like, Tommy, fucking shoot him. Like, what are we doing? Because again, on the way here, Tommy killed 30 people, easy. And if you went the violent route with the explosions, you burned people alive.
In fact, there's one guy when you walk into the room that's on fire, he's just dancing on fire and just falls over.
And there's also the guy, so like, in the scene, in the mission before, where you get shoved through the fence with the bat, and the guy's like, all right, bitch, like, blah, 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 and he comes at you, and then you fight him, and then you see him again, this time when you're chasing after those two, and he comes, he's like, I should have beat your ass the first time I had a chance. And when I opened that door,
him.
I got him before he even finished his fucking voice line. And so I'm just like, and so you have this moment where even if I was playing on simulation difficulty, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like a difficulty thing. Because even if you're playing on simulation, you still have to kill all of these people to get to that point. And you can argue that in the first few missions, you had the ability to stealth, right? Like, you could have stealthed your way to save Sam and do all this other stuff. But in the mission before this, you had to physically maim every single person that was in that alleyway with Sarah. And
you had
then
to shoot the guy that ran off with the money, even in the Sam mission. He wrecks his car and dies.
Yep, you had to shoot him. And then in this one, you don't have, like, there's no way to knock out any of these people. They're shooting at you from second one. And so your only option is to kill every single one of them. And so by that point, when you get to that point where Paulie's looking at you like, bro, shoot him. What are we doing? And he doesn't even bring a good point. This kid would not wait. He would have already capped your ass, like, which is a fact, by the way. But you tell me, he's like, I don't know. And you're like, bro, you killed 50 people before
You
this.
could have easily shot him, because like your whole thing is trying to stop him. You were trying to shoot him while you were chasing him. So were you trying to like clip his wings while you were shooting and driving, or like what was your goal there at that point? Like you were trying to kill him already.
So it is funny you say that, because my last note for this chapter before I have end chapter is, we get into the chase, they wreck the car, Tommy walks up to the window and Paulie wants us to shoot him. We hesitate, so Paulie assassinates him right in front of us, and I know this shows the brutality of Paulie, but also we just murdered like 12 people, so it's kind of funny seeing us in shock during this scene. I have the exact same notes.
I've seen so many TV shows and movies do it too, so it's not like something that's just on this game. It's just not something that's usually written very well, because they want to see that person do a whole bunch of cool shit later on, and we don't have time to see character development on how he gets so stone cold killer.
It's the same. They did a pretty good job about getting Tommy into the Mafia, where he didn't really want to, and it was a slow build.
He didn't really want to. He said he wasn't going to, and the next mission he fucking does.
But they do that. I mean, that's hard to do too, but this is just as bad. Like,
Sure.
it's just as egregious. Yeah. So that ends the chapter. The next chapter coming up is the Saint and the Sinner in the old game. It's actually I had a note from somebody else that said it's called The Whore and the Priest, like 2 separate missions.
Yeah.
What I've kind of found is it's literally just called The Whore, and the priest is kind of like this addendum. Like, I don't recall a save state that's like the priest mission now. It's just like there is a priest involved. Anyway, so the chapter starts as at a poker game, and Frank comes in, he's like, hey, there's business to discuss. We're like, what's going on, man? He's like, that kid you killed, last name Gilotti, he's at the coroner, and the Don asks, like, you know anything about this kid being dead or what's going on? Polly's like, yeah, we capped him, right? Like, this was the guys who told us to go break the legs and make him look bad. Like, went in, we ended it. And the Don doesn't really seem too upset, but he's like, Tommy goes, the cops should be doing us a favor. Like, we killed a rapist. It's like, first of all, attempted rapist. Not that I'm, like, out here advocating for this, but we actually don't know, like, how bad this kid would have been. We just beat him up. We didn't need to shoot him. Anyway, we shot him, and they're like, hey, well, as we say he was a rapist, the Don adds, yeah, he's also the son of a city councilor. So, like, way to go, idiots. And that second guy who you capped, you shot him in the chest, he's still alive. Like, you did not kill him.
Check a fucking pulse, my dude.
Yeah, and he looks at Polly and goes, 2 in the head, Polly. What are you doing? Like, 2 in the head. We know this. So essentially, the Don comes up with a plan. He's like, you know what? It's fine. I'm gonna help you handle this. We're gonna kill 2 birds with 1 blast. And you're like, interesting. He comes up with this plan. He goes, Sam, you're gonna go to the funeral. You're gonna keep your eye out for the guy that has been injured. He's gonna be in a sling. I mean, that comes out with somebody else. But either way, like, you're gonna look out for the guy that did not die, and you're gonna take him out. But to help you get an opportunity to take him out, these other 2 nerds are going to go to a brothel that we used to own that's been taken from us by Morello. And I want you to kill the brothel owner, and then I want you to go upstairs and get all the paperwork and stuff, all the papers, all the money, anything you can find, I want you to take. Because if they're going to take our brothel, they can have a crater. Like, they can inherit a crater. I want you to blow it up. And as the brothel blows up, Sam, that's your opportunity. That explosion will hide your gunshot, right? In theory, it's a great idea. In practice, that sounds like a really hard thing to pull off. There's no radios back then. Like, you're not like talking to each other and say, like, oh, I'm gonna blow it anyway. On top of this, there's another added piece where we got to find a girl there, because there's a specific girl, Michelle, who's giving information to Morello. She's been sneaking in info and kind of talking about our business, and we need to take Michelle out too. So our mission is go kill 2 people and blow this place up. Now, as we are walking outside, we have Sam. He stops us. And he's like, hey, this girl, Michelle, I know her, right? Like, clearly he has a thing. He's been with her often. And he's like, the girl's nice. She's not bright. If anything's been happening, like, it's not her fault. Like, just give her a warning. Like, just tell her, like, here, take this money, like, get out of town, scare her, but don't kill her, right? And I just had the note, like, Sam clearly knows this girl, and he asks us, he's like, please don't, she doesn't deserve to die for listening to me talk. And this is the moment where my suspicions change, and I'm all of a sudden going, Sam, the fuck are you doing, bro? So this is the moment I think Sam might actually be the one that's given up info on us. And I know he says, like, it's not her fault and it's not on purpose, and she just listens to me and I vent, but I'm actually starting to wonder, like, are you actually doing this on purpose? Right? Is it just pillow talk, or are you, like, doing stuff? So anyway, that's what we got to do. We got to go take her out. Now, before I get to that, I'm just going to say, I'm going to jump back to the OG version. In the OG, Frank is walking with Tommy down the street, and he said, Frank handles all this, like, hey, you let a guy go. And he even says, but luckily, they can't point the finger at you. And then he looks at us, he's like, get in the car. So we hop in the car, and he's like, I have a job for you. He says, I want you to go kill the brothel owner. Morello has it now. They're taking money from us. But I need you to go do it. It's just a small little side note, but all of this was a scene that happened with the Don, and it was the Don's plan, and he was involved.
Right.
Where here, it's all Frank, it's on the street, nobody else involved. It's not that, can they point you out, and we say, oh, we don't know, so they need to die. It was like, luckily, nobody can harm you. Like, very different scene. Also, there's some differences when we get to the hotel. So our mission is straightforward. We are killing people. They say, hey, kill the brothel owner in broad daylight. I don't care. It'll be a warning to everybody else. So we have free reign to do this how we want to do it. So I'm just going to ask, with the two tasks, killing the brothel owner and killing Michelle, how did you guys go about accomplishing this mission? Because there's a couple different things you could do throughout, right?
I did want to say, so this was, and I'll talk about what I did, but this was that moment that pissed me, like that made me more mad about the moment before, where you had that whole thing where Tommy was hesitating about killing this kid, right? He fucking walks up when you go to kill the hotel owner. He goes, "Hey, you the manager?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Don sends his regards." Boom, and then just blows his at like right away.
It didn't happen for me.
Okay, well, okay. So either way, that is a way that you can do it, where you walk up, you press B,
Just walk
walk
straight
up
to him. Okay.
shoot him straight in his dome, and then everybody's like, "All right, let's fucking get it popping." And I'm just like, bro. You were literally so scared the mission before, and now you're like, the Don sends his regards, and then just fucking ice this dude in the middle of the place.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. But no, so the way I did the mission was I walk in, I talk to the guy at the front counter, and I'm like, hey, is Michelle, or whatever her name is, is she in today? And he's like, oh, let me look. And he goes, yeah, she's busy. You can go talk to somebody else. You then walk around a corner. He has a phone ring. You can go in, and then
He's talking to another girl, a really high earning girl. She's like, I can't come in. Cover
whose son
for
is
me.
sick. Cover, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So you find out that she's in room 208. You can go up to 208. I saw there was also a room where somebody was like beating up on like there was like a thing. I didn't know what exactly was happening, but I heard a girl scream, and then there's a guy that's like beating up on some naked dude. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening here. So you both are gonna get beat the shit out of, and I'm just gonna leave the girl like in the room. So
I think what's happening is there was her probably typical John, and remember because Morello is taking over there. All the girls are like entertaining Morello men.
Yeah,
I think that was a typical John, upset and jealous coming in.
I don't know. Yeah, so I walked in and I was like, I can't really suss out what's happening here. I just know that this girl screamed, so you both got to get these hands, and then I'm gonna leave. So I beat the shit out of him.
I only beat up one guy. The other guy ran. He like took.
Yeah, I caught him before he left. He goes to run, and I was like, "Bink!" Caught him. I was like, "You ain't going nowhere, brother. I don't know what happened here, but you gotta pay for whatever alleged crime you might or might not have done." So
there's no court today. There's justice in the hands.
Yeah, dude. He goes to run, and I was like, "Where do you think you're going?" Make. I get his ass. I leave. And then, so I go and find room 208, handle that, do that scene with Michelle, and then I walk right downstairs and I'm like, okay, and I start talking to everybody, and everyone's like, yeah, manager's over there. If you want, you can wait for a girl to come, just sit at the bar, and a girl will eventually get to you. You can go meet somebody. I'm like, all right. And so then I walk, and then the manager is like, anyway, cheers to Morello. Think everybody should be good. Enjoy yourselves. Blah blah. All of the people start to turn to walk out of the room, and they make it right about to the door, and then their character models go, boop, and then they turn back around and stay in the door. And I was like, yeah, right on, that makes sense. So then I walk up, and I'm like looking around at stuff, and I'm like, is there a way that I can like make him leave? I was like, all right, whatever. I walk up, and I press B, and then it literally is just like, hey, you the manager? And he's like, yeah, who's asking? And he's like, the Don sends his regards. Boom! And then blasts him. And then everybody in the room was like,
insane.
Yo. And everybody in the room was like, what the fuck? And so then they all start, and I'm like, all right, you all have to get it now. So then I become Rambo. I'm running through this hotel, just boom, 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 just capping everybody. And then I get up to his room, or I get up to his office. I take all the stuff that we're supposed to take, plant the explosives under the desk, and then once again, nervous 2-foot Tommy over here sitting here at the edge, and he's like, his feet are shaking. He's like, oh, I don't want to die. I don't want to jump. And then the bomb goes off, and he's like, whoof, and it gets sent over. And he's like, well, that problem solved itself. And then obviously the cops show up, and it's a whole thing. But
So Preston, how
I'll be
did
right
you?
back. You guys keep doing your thing, but I'll be listening. Just
Preston,
So-
how did you do this?
I kind of start off the same way, go around the counter, clerk guy. He's getting on the phone. I don't hear him say anything. So I'm automatically going up behind him and choking him out. There's like a piece of paper there that shows like what room she's in, so you get there. I found out when you go up to that second floor, if you're just looking up there anyways, there is a card up there also that will tell you what room she's in as well. So if you miss it down there, you can get up there. Down at the bottom,
It's actually on all 3 floors. It's on
is
floor
it? So there's always
entry
something you can
1
find
and
to
2.
get it. Okay.
Yeah.
So take out the clerk guy. I'm kind of just combing that back area around there. I'm like, I take out pretty much anyone towards the kitchen. I kind of get this back way into that office, or not his office, but where the manager's at and where everybody else is at. So I'm like, okay, see this here. I'm like, let's go ahead and take care of the girl first. We'll come back down here. I got this back little exit way. We're good to go. So go upstairs, first floor, kind of walk around a little bit. I didn't want to do too much because I know she's on the second floor. But you kind of walk past the door and you kind of hear something like, oh, what's that sound? Kind of go back a little bit. I'm like, oh, someone's fucking in there. Okay. And they have different like scenes that will happen in different rooms because the first floor is some average fucking. You get to the second floor, someone is getting some business done. Like there is some more banging, more yelling.
Yeah.
Fucking going to town. So there's different levels. I like give you a little difference there. But
I appreciate your commentary on that because I did not have the fucking levels on my notes. So
fair enough. But yeah, so I take care of her. Obviously, that third floor because I found the piece of paper that says, "Hey, meet me up in the top floor and come with your like golden negligee." And for some reason, my mind goes, "Are we gonna start cross dressing? Are we gonna get like some negligee thing going on here real quick?" And I'm like, "Oh, of course not. We're just gonna go and kill him anyways." Like for some reason, in my mind, I thought that we're gonna get the outfit from like the closet or something.
it was either to Michelle or that other girl I forget, and he was like it was to Michelle. He was like, "Hey, Marilla's men are coming. You have to entertain the men. They can have as much as they want, as whenever they want. You cannot say no." And he said, "If you have a problem with that, feel free to come up to my office wearing that gold negligee and try and change my mind."
Sure.
Is what it was.
So finish that off. Find out you can't get up to that top floor. I'm like, okay, well, go downstairs. Went to that back way I did again. So through the kitchen where I knocked out those 2 dudes. And then from that doorway, I'm waiting, just kind of waiting a little bit to see if the guys would leave because he does that toast thing, but no one's leaving, of course. I'm like, well, there's no way you can sneak up and kill this guy. I'm like, well, I got a clear shot right here. So I pull up my bolt action rifle and I just smoke him right there. And now I'm right behind a door so I can just smoke everybody else who's there. And that's when I just start slowly making my way up. As far as slowly, I mean like slowly killing people as I'm going up this entire like location. So I don't think there is a stealthy way to kill him, particularly.
So,
but you tell me.
yeah, I don't think there is either. I think it's just Christians either, like you do what you did, Preston, or you do what Christian did and just make a statement. So I did. Mine was actually very similar to Preston. So I knocked out the guy behind the bar. I found the note that says what room she was in. I went up and took care of Michelle first. That was a pretty intense scene.
Yeah.
Like you thought, like Tommy acted like I was going to kill her.
I thought they were going to give you like a decision, like, do you want to let her go or do you want to take her down? I'm like, are they going to give me a decision? Really? They never gave me a decision. Yeah.
They don't. I thought it was that intense. I thought the same thing. Mm-hmm. I think that was. So I like that scene better in the original game. Mm-hmm. Sam's not involved. We still have the same job to do, and we find out Michelle is in room 208, whatever. We go up there. It's just like this woman in the bathtub. Actually, we don't know it's Michelle. We know there's a girl in a room. So we go up there. It's a woman in a bathtub. We tell her to get out, and we know it's Michelle because Michelle is a little side character that walked into Vincenzo's like bar earlier, and like she was Sarah's friend, and we're like, oh, I know you. And literally, Tommy says, you got a lot of people killed because of your talk, and we can't let that happen. You're too dangerous to us. And Michelle's like, she goes, literally this dialogue, Tommy, wait, I didn't mean to hurt anybody. I only wanted to help my brother. And then Tommy's inner dialogue kicks in. It goes, I knew it. This would only happen to someone like me, a total screw-up. I couldn't kill a girl that only wanted to help her brother. And then Tommy says out loud, get out and get dressed. Leave town. To this town, you're dead. Never show your face here again. She goes, okay, and then runs out the door.
Yeah. Christian, I see the look on your face. Yes, the original has all sorts of narration by Tommy. It is all fucking horrible.
Yeah. It's in her dialogue.
really
like,
bad.
but it's just funny. Like, I was only trying to help
Incredible.
my brother, and it, like, of course, it was only somebody trying to help their brother. Why would this happen to me, idiot? And I'm just like, okay.
all
So anyway,
bad.
I did what you did. I took care of Michelle first, which was a pretty. I thought the scene was good. I thought they handled it really well. Then I went downstairs and I followed the same path as you, Preston. So I went the back way. I knocked a couple guys out in the kitchen. I even went as far as like hide their bodies. And then I walked in the other room and I realized like these guys aren't leaving. So like I'm not going to kill him stealthily. So I literally walked into the bathroom, which was right beside him. And in my head canon, this is what happened. I walk in the room. I act like I'm using the bathroom. I maybe look in the mirror, make sure nobody's in there. And it's one of those things where I go, all right, we're doing this. I kick open the door, and first thing is headshot. And just drop him. And everybody's same thing, like, oh my God! I'm behind the bathroom door now. So, like, I've
Got a nice little cover.
done. You're right. You're all done. You're all in the middle. You're running around. I took everybody out. Same thing. We get up to the top. All of a sudden, we set the bomb after getting the papers. Boom. Explosion goes off. Blows us across the alley gap that we were trying to jump. And this is perfect for us. However, before we made the jump, we saw cops coming. So this explosion only makes more cops show up. And now they're searching for the person that did it. And they're searching on the roofs and everywhere else. So we get on the top. I don't know how you guys did this. I'm still in the headcanon of like, I don't want to kill cops.
So
I ran. I just ran
Same.
straight through everybody. I didn't fight them. I thought that's what the game wanted you to do. They wanted you to fight them because I got to the end of the spot before I figured out where to go with the ladder in the church. And I was on one side of the wall and all of them were on the other and they were just yelling, right? And it was like, clearly this game wanted me
And
Yeah,
they,
they're supposed to be
violently
dead.
shoot them
they
all.
also programmed them like stormtroopers. I wrote down my notes. Like, these guys are just programmed like stormtroopers. Like, they cannot hit shit. Because I am running past all of them. Like, I even took a one part where you have to go in the door on the left side, and there's like a thing in the middle. I actually go right. So I'm just running past 3 of these cops as they're all shooting me and trying to hit me. I'm like, I'll just take this detour instead. And it's like, you guys can't hit a brick shit house.
Yeah, it was wild. I did the same thing. So I was like, I don't think that they're like in my head canon the same way. And every single one of them is just like bang, 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 bang. Like they're just like, it's like, all right, man.
So we make our way to essentially another alley where we see a ladder laying on the roof. We put the ladder across the alley and we walk across that ladder to find ourselves in a chapel. And as we go down, this is where the funeral's at. This is where we dropped Sam off earlier. He's waiting for the guy that survived. And who just happens to be speaking at this funeral right then is that guy that survived. Oh, he was my best friend and such a great guy and blah, 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 blah. And we make a little bit of noise in the corner and he looks over and he sees us and he loses his mind. That's the guy that killed.
Yeah. Well, the priest sees
So-
you first. And
The priest
is like, what are you doing? And the guy turns and then he's like, oh, that's the guy who killed it. Like, freaks out. Yeah.
So ensues a little gunfight in the chapel and then a little chase around the top or bottom level for this guy. Eventually, you get to him and you shoot him and he drops. And you're like, sweet. The priest is like, what are you doing? Like, you can't be in here. Like, this is ridiculous, And I had notes here somewhere, but essentially like, oh my gosh, this is not right?
It's murder in God's house, blah, blah, blah.
Murder in God's house. So he's talking to us, and as we're talking to the priest, that other guy, still unkillable, stands up.
I was going to say, did you guys shoot him in the head?
No, I beat him up. I got close enough to where I was actually punching him.
Oh, I shot him in the chest.
I shot him in the head, and it gave the little X icon, and his arm comes out of his sling, like he's like, ugh, and it falls. So seeing him stand back up with no bullet hole in his head, and look at me like,
Christian is screaming, zombie!
I literally was like, this is so fucking weird. Like,
Yeah, it's weird.
I shot him in the chest, and I could play it off as in, like, maybe I shot him, in the cast or something. It's still gonna hurt, but like not kill you. So I was like, that's fine. I didn't shoot him in the head, but that's funny you did. So right before he stands up, he's gonna kill us. Is like, giving his big speech. Right before he pulls the trigger, Sam comes out of nowhere and Sam kills him, just caps him, shoots him in the head, and ends it. And we're like, hey Sam, where the hell have you been? He's like, oh, Morello's guys spotted me as soon as I walked in, so I'd go out and they followed me out. And this is where I had. This is where I officially had my theory, which I put. Paulie's an idiot and violent, but I think he's in. But I have a weird feeling now about Sam. He doesn't talk too much. He's always calm. He's leaking information to Michelle, and he only came in to save us in this chapel at the last minute, almost like he had to. ... So those
Very sneaky. Yeah, suspicious.
yeah. So we essentially go outside. The cops are there. There's no way around this. Like, it's a gunfight. I still stuck to my head cannon. I shot one cop, and I ran to the.
I ran straight to the car.
Yeah, I just got in the car.
I didn't shoot him in the head. I shot him in the chest, and it gave that little like stun animation where they like the game wants you to shoot him again, and it'll kill them. I did not.
In
So
the
they
30s, just so we're clear, he's probably dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
The way
guns
bullets were
weren't as
made back
powerful.
then,
I
it
don't
was
know.
just spreading out. It shot, just shattered in a million pieces. He
You
had
better hope
shrapnel
it exits
everywhere.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we run, we get in the car, and we drive away. That's the end of this chapter. I do want to say, again, back to the OG, the fight at the church is the same, but after we kill the guy, the priest goes on this big rant about like, oh, people are needlessly dying and all these lives and so much potential, and just like imagine what you could have done if you could have seen this potential, and how can you wash the blood off your hands, like blah, 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 blah. And the priest's like, what am I going to do? I can't let my parishioners like see all of this blood. And Tommy just goes, here, maybe this will help cover it, and just throws him a wad of cash. And he's like, Tommy goes, and preacher, pray for me. He goes, pray for me, Father, I need it. And the pastor goes, I will, son. I certainly will. And he just walks out, and that's the end of that.
Jesus.
So we come out of that mission into another intermezzo, and we're at lunch with Norman, and I thought this was pretty funny. You can see Norman has been, like, they've been sitting here for hours. The waitress shift has changed over. She's like, hey, sorry, I'm late. What do you want? And, like, you can
For
tell
lunch.
this is where
Yeah,
Norman...
what do you want for lunch?
Yeah, and Norman is just like, you can see it, and in this line, you can hear it, where he's just like, what the hell have I gotten into? He goes, 2 lunch specials and a coffee. You know what? Just bring the whole pot. It's
Well, and
literally
before
just
that,
what
he
says.
says you're admitting to a shootout in a church. He goes, you know that I could take you in right now and have you locked up till you're
Just
dead.
with this, yeah.
You'll never
Yeah.
get out. And then he's like, Tommy's like, yeah, but then you never get anything on Morello.
Or you can't make anything stick as well. Yeah.
I just love how he's like, Morello.
That's how he says it when he goes. He's like Morello. He always does it like that.
So Tommy continues his story. He's like, yeah, it was weird. Like, we didn't really get too much heat from the shootout at the place, right at the church. Like, we had some cops coming around, but that was really it. Like,
He's like, we laid low
nothing
for 8
crazy.
months. He was like, it was really
Yeah.
weird. He's like, I still think it's weird.
Yeah, that's what I have. Like, he thought it was weird, right? And he starts telling the story about how Morello was moving in on their turf and like it's taking all these different rackets and stuff. Norman's like, bro, why didn't you catch on? He's like, oh, maybe Paulie did, right? But like, you know, nobody else really did. We were too busy like getting drunk every night. We're playing poker. We're going out to the bar. We're going out to the club. Like, because we're literally throwing our money around. And this is when we drop into another story where we're with Frank, and Frank is essentially like, hey, get in the car, let's talk. And I didn't have time to go back and get this speech and put it in here, but essentially Frank is like, Tommy, you and Paulie, you're out there throwing the money around, like, you're making too much noise. Invest it. Like, become a Wall Street, do whatever. And Tommy's like, I don't know, man. Like, what's the big deal? And Frank's like, let me tell you a story about this racing dog and me and the Don. And dude, this story was legit, like, in all honesty, top tier writing.
It was good. It was really good.
It was so good.
And he brings it around perfectly because after he gets done telling the story about how he has this dog that he had for racing and it couldn't lose until he met the Don, and it makes a bunch of money, and then one time randomly it gets pregnant, and so but they didn't know it at the time. It loses a race, and the Don wants to drown the dog because it pissed him off so much, and blah blah blah. And then
And he has that line. He goes, I didn't let the Don drown it. And he's like, so what happened? He goes, I broke the Don's nose.
his nose, yeah. But then he says, so, and he talks about the dog, and he says, so why did it lose or whatever? And he was like, well, it was pregnant, and he was like, it turns out that it got out of the yard somehow, it was in heat, and then every dog in the neighborhood got a turn. And then Tommy was like, oh, damn, okay, that's quiet for a second. He goes, you're the dog,
Yeah.
Tommy. You are a bitch in heat, and
you got
you're
called a
like,
bitch. Yeah.
And he says you're a bitch, and if you get pregnant, you're not fucking like using to us or something.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
And
So-
if you go
and he's
around
like-
No, he
town,
said-
you're
he
gonna
says-
get fucked. Yeah.
You're gonna get fucked,
he's
and if you get
and
fucked,
he goes,
you're
"And you
not
keep-"
useful to us.
And like you're drawing everybody's attention, or all around the place, and blah blah blah. And I was like, God damn, dude. All right, Frank.
And he ends it after he says that, right? Like, you're the bitch in heat. If you go around town, you're gonna get fucked, and if you're fucked, you're not useful to us. And then he goes, anyway, say hi to Sarah for me. And gets out of the car. It was like, damn.
And he also
like
tells
that,
Tommy, he says that Sam and Paulie, he basically is like, things that we already know. Like, Paulie is great in a fight, but he's dumb as a box of rocks. And he was like, Sam is smart and loyal, but he lacks vision. Like, he doesn't. And he's like, but you, Tommy, like, we need you to start acting better because you could run this town someday. And then Tommy's like, oh damn, like, okay, I got the sauce.
This game has been good. That scene gave me chills. Like, it was literally top tier writing. Some of the
It was
best
good.
they've done. And you're
Really
right.
good.
The story, the way they brought it back around, like full circle, is like shit. And it actually comes back up later too.
Yeah.
But man, it was so good. There's also a couple little touches in there in this intermezzo that I thought, again, the game nailed. In that scene, you can see some great stubble on Tommy's face, like super detailed, just looks really realistic. And in the diner, he has his arm up on the side. He's holding his cup of coffee and it's tilting forward. And if you look real close for a split second, you see the coffee moving, getting closer to the edge as he's just like lackadaisically holding it. It's just perfect little touches. So that's the end of that. Quick check-in on the old game. Frank does get us in the car, and he was like, hey, what's going on? And Tommy's like, hey, we're just having fun, we're spending money. And Frank's like, look, man, you need to find the meaning of life, otherwise you're going to end up dead. Or all the dames, all your buddies, they're going to disappear and leave you alone. Tommy's like, Frank, who are you to tell me about the meaning of life, is like literally what he says. And Frank says, the Don doesn't need drunks with trembling hands working for him. Those kind of people bring problems. And if you don't watch out, the next thing you know, your best friend kills you in the blink of an eye. That's it. And he's like, they talk about, he's like, go find a good wife, how's Sarah, whatever, and that ends. There is that little bit of like threat that we had. Nothing like what we got in the definitive edition. Like, it was so much better. So it brings us to chapter 9 here. This mission is called A Trip to the Country, and it is a trip. So for this mission, we learned that Frank for a while has been the guy that was giving out jobs to everybody. He's dealing with the money. And it seems like Frank's generally in control, because a couple missions now, like, we don't have too much interaction with the Don, right? Like, a lot of it for a while has been kind of Frank seemingly like pull the strings. And I have a note that says, I do find it interesting. This is the second mission in a row that's trying to show how important Frank is.
Yeah, he is.
And I didn't realize.
Yeah, he is
ahead.
like a second-hand man, like his go-to guy. So it's very easy that he could be getting these missions from the Don himself to enforce and bring out there to the team. Because the Don doesn't want to be there all the time. So
100%, he is the consigliere. With that being said, it does make sense by the end of this.
oh yeah, makes a lot more sense.
So I thought it was interesting. Like, at the time, in that headspace I was playing the missions through, I just had that note, and I was like, it's weird. Like, second mission in a row, they're trying to say how important Frank is. So for this mission, we hop in a car with Polly, and we're headed to the country to pick up some alcohol. So essentially, there's been an import. The Canadians have smuggled some alcohol over the border, and we're like, oh, who cares? Why all the stuff? Why all the help and so on? And they're like, look, Morello's moved in on all these rackets. Alcohol is the only racket in town we have left, so we cannot let him take it. So let's go get this alcohol. Let's bring it back. We got a case all set aside for the Don. Like, it's going to be easy peasy. Let's go check on the Canadians. So on the way there, Polly's acting real weird again. I don't know if you guys kind of caught this. I'm sure you did. But he starts asking about Sarah. Right? Like, asking how she's doing. And somebody makes a comment. He's like, oh, kind of weird, Tommy, right? Like, one minute you're protecting her virginity, and the next one you're taking it. Nah.
It's a little too
like,
far with it, yeah.
A little too far. And Tommy was not happy, right? And Polly keeps going further. He's like, oh, she's been around forever. Dad's been part of it forever. Like, she probably knows the business better than any of us do, right? Like, she knows it as good as the Don does. And, like, she's super tough, and she won't put up with shit and whatever. And he's just like, hey, you should go home to her, Tommy. That's a good wife. Somebody's not going to get in the way of the business and so on. Like, you should go home to her. And he goes, I'm going to go home to a couch. And like this whole thing was just super weird.
Yeah,
it was
every
not
time-
bad acting, great acting, just weird with Polly.
It's an awkward single
Polly is-
friend.
Yeah, well, Polly's always it's in every mob thing, but there's always the mob person who's just as dumb as a box of rocks, like just so
Yeah.
stupid. And every single time they're on the screen, you're always just like, oh, just man, if you had two brain cells to rub together. But he's just
Yeah.
like, in every scene, he proves that he's just the big old oaf.
He does, but like he just says things in a way that it also makes him seem very, very jealous, right? Like he can tell we have it together. He can tell.
I mean,
people
remember
like
in the
something.
last
Like, he's,
the last episode, right? Like we
he's very
talked about the racing scene, like where he was all
Yeah.
fucking, oh, I'm so mad that you're the favorite and blah blah blah.
And now he's got a girl, and he's probably jealous about that.
Yeah, it's not good. So we get to the farm, and Sam's not there to meet us at the bridge. We honk our horn. It's in this rainstorm. Like, hey, Sam, what's going on? And Polly's like, oh, this idiot, probably back there 3 sheets to the wind because the alcohol's here, and you know he's a drunk. Ha ha ha. So he's like, we'll go find him. He gets out, and we're like, no, this is
Gomez.
I know, like Polly, dude, this is weird. He's like, all right, go find Sam. I'm gonna take care of these guys. So then we go, and like as soon as we start walking, we can tell something's up. There's nobody in this farm. The farm's pretty big. There's nobody around. We walk out a back door. There's a dead dog, and we even comment like, "What idiot? Like, what a-hole shoots a dog?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like something is definitely up now. Now I don't know about you guys, but I'm scraping the map for collectibles like in these missions. So I made my way around this entire farm, and even found this farm where there's bloodstains leading up to the door, and you can peek through the like cracks, and there's bloodstains all over inside. So we're like, oh, this is kind of weird, and I'm like, no, there's definitely like something's going on here, guys. Like video game, I know what you want me to think, but as a person with eyes, I can see the jig. Like it's up. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So we make it to the back of the farm, and there's the truck and the driver in the truck, and what happens? We open the door, and he just falls out, and then 2 guys sneak up on us, and they're just I forget the exact dialogue here, but essentially
They basically
it's
say put your fucking gun on the ground, and then he's like, no, look, I don't even know what's happening here. Like, and he, Tommy doesn't put his gun down. And the guy's like, all right, well, hey, you want to do this the hard way, and then that's when Tommy was like, all right, and then he shoots him before they can get the drop on him.
Yeah. The reason I didn't remember what they said is because I had most recently done the old game like watch through, and the old game they're straight up like, hey, Morello sends his regards, like this is his turf now, like none of this is yours.
They
Get to
don't
go
say
on.
that. They don't lend themselves
I
back to
didn't-
Morello at all. Yeah.
I didn't think so. They also identify themselves as police and other stuff. We're like, oh shit. In this one, we shoot these 2 guys, take them out, and Paulie comes in with the other guys in the truck, and they're like, oh my god, like where is Sam? What's going on? Like clearly Morello's guys are here, and Paulie reaches down and picks up a badge. She's like, oh, Tommy.
No, this
We
is Border
still
Patrol.
Yeah, you just killed cops, man. This is
Federal cops.
not good.
Yeah.
Federal cops, and it's border patrol. So we go around the farm, and we're looking for Sam. Gun, like we're going through the barn. The one that was closed is now open. We find the other guys, the other Canadian like that brought stuff over. They're dead and like on a hay bale. We go around outside, and there's the farmhouse up top. Outside of the farmhouse, there's more of those cops, Morello's men, like shooting at Sam, who's in the window trying to like hold his ground. We see Sam gets clipped, so he gets shot and he falls back, and now we know like we got to get to him. He's been injured. We got to take out these guys. So we fight our way up to the top, where Sam is in real bad shape. He thinks he's dying. He's bleeding out. Like everything's bad. So Paulie's like, I'm gonna get the truck. Tommy, you hold him off. And then we have a couple of waves of just like Morello's men and straight up police officers in blue uniforms. And I feel bad for them because by this point I had picked up a Tommy gun. And these guys either tried to walk up the stairs or climb the ladder. And you can't climb a ladder when a guy's just firing
The
bullets.
best part,
at you.
I never even had guys get that close. Like the first wave comes through, they're all in their position, so I smoke them. The second wave starts coming through, and I was like, oh, okay, deal. No, I killed them regularly. Then the cop wave comes through, and I was like, well, I left all these explosive canisters here, and I never got to use them. So then the cops come through, and I go, boom! I just start detonating them all. So then the cops are, Dunyan rings, and I was like, all right, well, later, boys.
So we get Sam outside to the truck, and as we're getting him in the truck, we see more people pull up. What we actually see is just like a straight up armored car with a turret on top. Like, this is a SWAT vehicle in the 1930s.
Yeah.
And we're like, we got to go. So we get in the back with Sam. There's
It was
Tommy
used
gun.
in the Great War.
Yes. We get in the back with a Tommy gun and infinite ammo. And it's just a little mini boss fight, which I appreciate. I thought it was cool. We were killing, like, I wasn't actually not shooting cops. I shot the tires of the motorcycles, 3 motorcycles, and I shot the engines of the cop cars.
I'm impressed.
And took them out.
Everybody got
Smoking everyone, aiming for the drivers for the most part, because that'll stop the car faster.
it. Yeah.
That will. Good call.
I was catching people when motorcycles were coming in. I was like, bink, and then the motorcycle would just fall over. I was like, later, dork.
But this was good. It was a nice, like, just drawn out chase and
Yeah,
cut
it's
scene,
fine.
and eventually you throw some Molotov cocktails in the armored car and kill it and whatever. It was good. We make it to the doctor who we have on retainer, the guy we should have gone to with our janky arm now.
Just sleeping.
He was sleeping, wake him up. We drop off Sam, and Sam's like, go take the truck back. And Tommy's like, I'm going to stay. And Polly's like, dude, you're doing no good. Like, he's already injured. There's 2. Like, just go. We're like, all right, we're going to go. And that kind of ends the chapter. The only 2 notes I had for the original game in this one, the original game doesn't have the armored car. It's just police cars. I liked the touch of the armored car. And then when we drop off Sam, Polly just looks at us. He's like, oh, well, we're in total war now. And he goes, go see Lucas to boost a car. Like, oh, okay, and that's that.
Yes, boss.
But otherwise, this one was pretty close, and this was a good mission.
This next chapter is the fastest chapter in the game, I think.
Oh, sure.
Omerta?
Yeah.
It can be.
All right,
Depending how you play
we'll
it.
talk about it. So,
To be fair, the
so
Sarah one
chapter
was pretty short.
Yeah, chapter 2
this
is
one was even
Omerta.
faster, though, because that mission,
This means Code of Silence, and just let me check my notes here. Yeah. So this means Code of Silence in Italian. It's a real thing for the Mafia, whatever. I only know that because I fucking Googled it before we came on here. So
Sure.
this has to mean something.
Right.
Anyway. So I have a note. Bombshell. We find out who's been given money. Frank has stolen all of the logs, all of the books. He's taken money.
Well, he's in charge of them. He just took them. Yeah,
he's taken, and he's left.
The
The
Don telling
Don
you about
can't
it.
get a hold of him. He's called him. He's gone over to the house, whatever. And Tommy literally looks at the Don. That's where the story comes back around. It's such a nice touch.
It's a nice touch.
He's like, is Frank mad about the dog you tried to drown?
No.
And then the Don...
So Frankie goes, because I just said today, but he goes, Tommy goes, I just don't understand why. And then the Don goes, I don't know, it could be this, could be that, and he's like, maybe he's still, pissed about the dog that I tried, or the dog that I killed. And he goes, well, I thought you couldn't drown it. He's like, yeah, I couldn't drown it, so then I shot it.
He goes, yeah, the same one I shot after he wouldn't let me sink her.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Which was like, again, just adds to the other story. It was like, damn, good touch, good writing. So essentially, mission is pretty simple. We have to find Frank. We have to find out what he did with his books. Like if Morello gets his books, if the feds get this book, it's a bad day. Because essentially what's happened, what we know, is that the feds are in town. We did kill Border Patrol. Morello, and then the city councilor of the dad of the kid we killed, they've kind of struck a deal. And something's going down. We don't quite know what's going down. We assume Frank is going to give over some stuff. That's why he's disappeared. We don't know that quite yet, but that's the mission. We need to find Frank and find out what he's done with everything. And then the Don just adds, he goes, then Tommy, do whatever you need to do. Right? So like that is a kill Frank. So where do we start? We start off with the guy that has all the info in town. We head back over to see Biff. And Biff tells us that the FBI is in town, something from Morello. He also tells us that there was like a guy at a bar the other night, a driver, who took somebody that drank too much home, and that guy started talking about a safe house and about this deal that's been struck. And that's how we find out that Galati got a deal together between Morello and the feds that if they could get this information from Frank, that's what's playing out. They're gonna take out Don Salieri. So we from Biff, we find out who this driver is. We go see the driver. We're like, bro,
That name never
like
gets old.
Biff. I know.
Yeah.
So we go and find this guy, and we're like, hey, what happened? Like, why didn't you tell us what's going on in town? Like, you took this guy home, you didn't come to us first. Like, you know us, we're friends. And he goes, I did come to you. I told Frank. And he's like, what? Frank didn't tell you guys? It's like, man, not looking good. So we figure out where the safe house is based on this info. We go, we wait, and we see Frank coming out, and he hops in a car with the feds. And what do we have to do? We have to follow. We follow this car all the way to the airport.
Slowly.
We realize, yeah, slowly,
Very slow.
very slow. So we followed all the way to the airport. We hide the car. We realize, like, man, he's gonna make a break for it. So we go inside, or we sneak up, and however you want to do it, there's different ways. But you find out that he's in Hangar 5. We got to make our way to Hangar 5. For this one, real quick, I found out we needed to go to Hangar 5. I saw the cutscene where they hop in the car and they drive off, and there's two guys in front of me that both come back and they start walking to the right, and they're going to come up the stairs exactly where I'm hiding behind the wall. As soon as they turn to go up the stairs, I just jump over the wall. I took off running to the left. I ran all the way around the airport until I came over 2 boxes. And then one guy saw me as I came over 2 boxes, alerted everybody else. I sprinted to the door, opened it, cutscene.
So
And
I
that's-
did basically the same thing, so I did a little bit more direct. So I went down, like, straight down to the, like, a little bit to the right. There's a guy smoking a cigarette. I knock him out, and then I'm like, well, I have a pretty much a straight shot here. So I start running, and then there was one dude that got in my way. I popped him. I kept running. And the door, like, I saw the hangar thing, and I was like, well, what are the chances that it's just going to let me? And so
That was my thought, too.
And it was like, boop, walked in, cutscene, and he's like, then there's a, you'll get to the cutscene happens, then Tommy makes a remark about how he smoked everybody outside.
Took care of all of them. Like, did you? Did
And
I?
I'm like, I certainly did. There's an army out there waiting for
Yeah.
me.
I did the same thing. Pretty much left side, you go through there. I was stealth killing people in the building because they were all kind of separated. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of people up front, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not taking these guys out without starting to fight. So I'm like, when I see them drive off, I'm like, am I supposed to be in my own car? What the fuck's going on? So I'm like, okay, well, let's try this left side. I see the stairs go down on the left side, but there's like no one all the way to that next building. I'm like, okay, go to the next building, get inside that building. Because I saw one dude on the left. I'm like, I don't know if I can sneak up on him. So I go inside. There's like a section in that hallway where there's 2 dudes both looking the opposite direction. So no matter what you do, they're not leaving each other's side. I'm like, well, maybe I'll get that guy on the left. So he's standing next to the car having that smoke. I'm going up to him, and I notice that he's in front of the door that those 2 guys are standing in front of. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, all right, let's see how we can do this. So I try to sneak up on him. I couldn't get the silent kill on him, so I just beat his ass right next to the car. And no gunshots, no nothing. You can kind of see like the visual, the blips that pop up towards like white means they can kind of see you. Red means that they're like hostile to you or they know they're like threatened. So it popped up that they were red and threatened, but no one ever made a sound and no one came out of that building. So I got past that building. I went out, like you guys just all the way to the left. No one saw me the entire time. Like I took out a couple dudes in the main first big building before you got in the car and left. I took out that one dude on the left, walked into that hangar, and that line came up to where it was like I took care of all of them. Like I don't believe you did. Because we got an entire airport back there full of dudes.
You guys did more than me. Like you, Christian, you shot somebody, Preston, you took out some guys stealthily. I literally ran to the left, saw the guy by the car, and said,
Just kept going.
There's no way this game's going to let me. And I just kept running past him all the way to the back. And in the back, there's a break in the fence and 2 brown boxes. And I was like, okay. And I jumped up and he jumped over. And that's when I jumped over and a guy like way down to the right saw me and alerted everyone. And I saw the little emblem on the door. Same thought, like, no way. If not, it's fine. I'll just reload, right? And I ran straight in, and it's like, yeah, and I was like, oh, okay.
We can do
Cool.
this. All right. Speed run 101.
So we go in there, and there's a great scene with Frank, and like as he's talking to us, he's, Frank, what are you doing? You're going to run, so on. He's like, look, I couldn't help it. Morello, like, they came for me, right? Like, Morello's guys came for me. They said, like, if I don't help them, they're going to kill my family. Like, I can't let that happen. I just got to give them the books, and it is what it is. And we're like, so you gave them the books? He's like, no, I did not give them the books. Not yet. I was going to give them the key. And I said, like, as soon as you book travel for me and my family, which by this point we see his wife and his daughter come out, so we know it's all 3 of them. I said, like, hey, if you secure safe travel for me and my family, I'll give you the key to the locker of the, what you call it in the bank, the safety
Box,
deposit box,
yeah.
right?
Black box.
I'll give you the key. You can go get it when I'm safe. He's like, but when 2 guys came for me, I went ahead and I took care of them. So I have the key right here. He's like, so here you go, Tommy, you can have it.
And
right?
Tommy even
So-
asked him. He goes, Frank, like I get they threatened you, but why didn't you just come to us? Like, what what's the point? And then that's when he was like, well, honestly, it's because I'm just done. Like, I'm tired of.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this life. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of every single time that I want to go on a drive on Sunday. I have to look under my car for a bomb and blah 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 blah. Like, I just want out of the life, and this seemed like the easiest way to get out.
So, by this point, there's this really great scene where he is like, Frank looks over at his family, is like, get in there. We gotta talk through this. We gotta deal with it. And they're like, what? He's like, just get in, right? He's like yelling at him, like, I'm not dealing with you. Just get in. Let me do this. Like, I love you, so on. And we have this conversation, and Tommy eventually just lets him go. He can't come to it. He can't shoot him. He's like, what am I doing? He's like, just get on the plane. And he tosses money to the pilot. He's like, have you been paid? He's like, yep. He goes, good. Now you've been paid double. Don't
Take
say
them
a
where they
word.
want to go. Yeah.
Leave. Just leave. Make sure.
And he says that
nobody
before
gets
he
hurt.
actually tells them when the girls go on the plane. He goes, take them wherever they want to go. And that's when
Yeah.
he lets Frank get on after that. But yeah.
Yeah. So really good scene. They fly off. Real quick before we just briefly talk about the end. Well, we'll talk about the ending. So they fly off, and then we go into this like little cutscene where Tommy was like, I covered my tracks, and by covering his tracks, he essentially set the safe house on fire to make it look like everybody died. And he goes, and nobody knew the difference. So then it shows a scene at the funeral where there's 3 boxes, 3 coffins. So we think that Frank and his family are in there, and they're being buried. The dawn is there, right? And it's kind of sad day. And dude, the end of this was so good. So like Morello walks up, he comes out, which by the way, I have a note here. And I forget where I put. Oh, here we go. At the funeral, Morello shows up, which, by the way, is definitely just Mitt Romney. Like, it is literally
He
like if you go back and watch it.
He does have that vibe. Yeah.
It is just Mitt Romney. I forget what he calls him, but he calls Morello by his first name, like Mauricio or something close to that. And then he looks back at Salieri and he's like, Sergio. Right? And he was like, you're drawing a lot of attention being here and so on. And
Then my guys are getting a little itchy. Yeah.
Yeah, Morello's like, will you chill? Like, I knew Frank longer than you knew Frank, right? He was a best friend of mine for a while too, sort of thing.
Yeah.
With there, and it was a really great thing to show like how these guys from Sicily knew each other. They started off as friends. Like, it's a very close knit community and so on.
Yeah.
Despite what's going on. Good touch, good thing. Just quickly, the OG one, because this was a short mission here. Starts off with a cutscene where Salieri is just laying into us. He's like, we're at war. We've lost 8 men. Sam can't even stand up. The counselor of the kid was killed and, like, close to the feds. And Tommy literally goes, hey, like, we ain't got nothing to worry about. They ain't got nothing on us. And Salieri is like, bro, that's where you're wrong, you idiot. Like, yesterday, Frank gave all of our information to the feds. The prosecutor is having a field day right now on all the information he has. So beyond that, like, a lot of stuff happens similar, but Salieri is like, you need to go liquidate Frank. Tommy goes, you mean hit him? And he's like, yeah, he broke the omerta. Kill him. And it's like, all right. So Tommy's like, well, I guess if Frank's standing in our way, it's the only option. So then we have to go meet a couple of people. One of the people we have to meet is Biff in Chinatown. Is Big Biff in Chinatown. We get there, and Big Biff is a misnomer. This dude is teeny tiny, and he has a stutter, and like he can't get words out. And he gives us information to where this other guy is that we go find. This other guy tells us where Frank is. I just thought it was funny. That's what Biff was relegated to. But essentially, this happens a little differently, and it's more convoluted, I guess, where Frank's like, look, the cops came for me. The cops are blackmailing me. He's like, why would the cops blackmail you? Because the cops work with Morello and all this other stuff. And then Tommy, this is where things change. Tommy goes, well, have you given them the documents? Frank's like, no, I haven't. Like, I really haven't given them the documents yet. And Tommy's like, well, give them to me. And he goes, I'll give them to you if you save my family. My family is here somewhere, but you have to rescue them before I do it. So we handcuff Frank to a pole, a light post, in the airport. Then we have another shootout around the airport to find his family who's like locked up in a random room. Take the family back to him. He's so happy. He then gives us the key.
This game sounds miserable.
Yeah. And like when we do that, essentially from then on, they're like, "Oh, thank you," and they hop in a plane, they fly off, and then the ending happens as it did. But again, like I have a note in either this one or the next section, and it literally just says, "What game am I watching and what game am I playing?" Because they are clearly not the same game. Like not even remotely the same.
Like
game.
tone and everything is off, but the missions and the chapters are pretty much all there. But it's just the way it's written is just like it's a day and night.
But even the missions are different. Like if they had done that for that mission, I'd have been miserable. I'd been like, why do I have to? This is busy work. Like why do I have to do this?
It's almost like the studs of the house are there, right? But like somebody ripped the house down, did the studs, and then built it back up and remodeled, and that's what it is. So anyway, that's the end of our second playthrough. General thoughts before we end it here?
Oh, it was good. My only thing is that I thought that plot point that they always try to do in different stories about like the hesitant killer, blah blah. It just never comes off right, and I'm always just like, you could have skipped right by this. Like it's silly.
Yeah. Not a big fan of any scene that requires us just to walk next to somebody. Very slow, very boring. Not always a whole lot of dialogue in there, and when there is, there's a lot of weird, awkward pauses and stops. Like even with the very first one, the Sarah. Like right before we get to the flower guy, like she stops there, like right in front of him, not right in front of him, like getting close to it. I'm like, am I supposed to go somewhere now? Like, do I just keep walking? And then the flower guy goes. I'm like, oh, like this thing needed to start a whole 5 seconds earlier because I didn't know what the fuck the hell was doing with the game. I thought she was broken and she just stopped walking. I'm not sure what was going on. That happened multiple times with multiple characters in different chapters to where maybe you're walking with Sam and all of a sudden he just stops talking and walking. Like, oh, he's got to trigger something here in like 5 fucking seconds. But for now, I don't know what's going on with this level. It happened to me a handful of times and I'm just not a big fan of that. Same complaint from the old game that I had when I played it from my memory. Is that these cars are slow as fuck. I get it. It's 1930s. They're probably going for more of like a realistic approach with it. I'm just not a fan. It's not my bag. I just don't like doing it. And especially when we have to sit there and follow somebody who's essentially driving the simulation version of this game because the AI trying to drive perfectly. It's like we're going really slow. Doesn't notice me following him just because I'm 3 or 4 cars back. We're all stopping at stoplights. I leave all that space in between us so my meter doesn't go up for stealthy, but they still don't notice me following them. Like, okay. But just those slow, long, drawn-out sections, I'm just not a fan of. Overall...
Preston's Zenless brain is kicking in right now. His Zenless Zero brain is like, just get me right into the action. Let me hard parry these people and let me roll for my new old man character.
Even Zenless doesn't give it to me fast enough of the fucking menus it has.
It's funny you say that because, like, I actually didn't have a problem with the driving section. Like, yeah, it's slower, but I didn't think it was unbearably slow.
Man, I mean,
and I didn't have any issues with the walking either. Like, that's so
fast
funny.
Racing games. The faster it is, when you can get the F-Zero and shit, the better to me,
Yeah, but
right?
this is an
So all of a sudden, I'm playing a
racing game.
1930s game, fucking driving this goddamn fucking shitty old cars that are going
So
like what 30.
silly.
Can't even fucking speed up going up a hill, like barely a hill, like an incline going towards a bridge. And it's like, I guess we're not going to increase in speed until we get the midsection of this fucking bridge because this car just can't handle power. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
If you're not with a companion, you can get out and boost another car, right?
These cars itself are just not going fast enough up these hills. Like they don't have the horsepower to get faster up these like small inclines. And did you guys try out the motorcycle?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That
I love the motorcycle.
Doesn't turn for fucking shit. It turns just as wide, if not worse, than those fucking cars. It's like you're driving an 18-wheeler. It's a motorcycle. You turn. You should be able to turn on the fucking drop of a
That's
dime.
not- no,
I've
bro,
watched
you
Captain
are-
America. He drives those fucking things like nobody's business, okay?
The fact that you even are using
It's a joke.
basis of
Either
reality.
way, they don't turn very well. And I'm thinking, like, oh, I get this motorcycle, I won't be able to bob and weave them. Like, no, it's just like, I'm like trying to like push it, and it's like I don't want to turn. I personally
It's
did
like
not like
4
it.
tons of metal
I'm
with
not
an
gonna
engine
sit here and
strapped to
argue with
it.
you. I just don't like it. It's not my thing. The game is good. The story's very well written. The combat's
I
not
just
that
want to
bad.
know if these developers have ever heard of a little game called Burnout Paradise.
Yeah. Start wrecking shit. No, it's just not my thing. It's not my thing. I'm not a fan of it, and I wasn't a fan of it when I originally played it.
Yeah.
I'm still not a fan of it now. Looks gorgeous, written fucking well, combat's all right, driving's atrocious, I feel.
That's hilarious.
Also,
Okay.
one real quick thing too, and you'll notice this now. I don't know if you haven't noticed it yet. There's these signs. These signs aren't really in the game. So it's the white signs that show you where the turns
Yeah.
are,
It's
right?
the,
Yeah,
it's
they
the GP.
disappear.
It's the GPS.
Yeah.
They disappear as soon as you get close to them.
Yeah.
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 Because you don't
And
want
you can't
why would
hit
you
'em.
hit the G. Yeah, it's just a
No,
quality of life.
it's-
It's a
You
GPS.
can-
It's
in
not
fact, you
GPS.
can
It's
turn
the
that-
30s. I can't drive my
No,
car
it
up a
is.
hill properly, but you want to have
It's
GPS
a-
in here with fucking
it's
signs?
a-
Get the hell out of here.
When you see a mini map, when you see the mini map and it gives you the red line, and it's the
Yeah.
30s. They didn't have mini maps either, but you
Well,
got one.
I don't need this little sign that's going to disappear. I'm thinking the game's breaking
can-
because these fucking
you
signs are
can-
disappearing on me.
So just so you know, if you go into settings, turn off GPS, and those white signs will never show up for you again.
I do want the red line though for the GPS. I just don't need those signs popping up.
Oh, well, okay. We'll turn off
Hey.
GPS. It's fine.
Either way, I thought it was weird, but I think it's still a good game. I just don't prefer the way the driving is. So that's just me.
Okay.
That's how I
well,
feel.
I'm not looking for reasons to be angry. So,
I'm not looking. I just don't like it. I think it's boring.
I didn't have to look very hard. It started right when the fucking game booted up.
Yeah, I like the story in this section, dude. I keep getting blown away by the detail. There was a
Yeah.
scene when we left the bank or the airport. I forget which one it was. I made a note on it somewhere. But you look in the air and there's a blimp flying around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And earlier, I heard the radio station about like the airship. And I just looked at it and went, man, like this wild. People used to fly in those things, like not planes. Like for a short while, you could look in the sky and see just like blimps with people
yeah.
in it just doing their thing. It's crazy. It just captured the detail. There was also another scene that I didn't call out from the OG. I forget where it was. I think it was after Sam. So after Sam was injured, we take him away or whatever. In the OG game, we show up at Sarah's house. Sarah goes, "You're late. Dinner's cold." Like super pissed. And we're just standing there like all shocked and scared. She stands up. She realized like, okay, something bad happened. So she takes off her jacket. She hangs it up. When she hangs it up, she gets blood on her hand. And she's like, "What's wrong?" And Tommy's just like, "Work." And they hug, and Tommy doesn't move. And Tommy just goes, "Marry me." And she goes,
Sure.
"Okay."
So that's the only thing they changed in that scene then, because they just cut out wow, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they added the "marry me," or they cut out the "marry me" and the "okay" thing, which I thought was interesting. So
That wasn't. I thought that was in the original, the new game.
Nuh-uh.
Are you sure?
I didn't
Pretty
notice
sure.
that.
I didn't
Yeah.
watch the OG stuff for this section, and I'm
Oh,
pretty sure I remember.
I did not.
I'm pretty sure I remember him saying "marry me," and she says "okay." And then
Oh, I didn't catch it. If it
I
did,
don't think
okay.
so.
Maybe.
I remember it happening, and I did not watch the original
Okay.
video. So it happens in this new game too,
Okay.
which
So,
I thought was weird because it's like the whole thing. It's where like he doesn't want to be in the mob, and he'll get in the mob. She doesn't want to go to bed with him, and then I know that time flies by. Like timeline actually goes like 8 months forward, but we don't actually realize that. I mean, I don't realize that. I don't think about it, and then it's like, oh, she just says okay to him married because he just fucking had a hard day at work. All right.
yeah. So I'm enjoying the story so far. I'm excited to see where it goes. I haven't had the same issues with the walking. The driving can be slow, but I actually haven't hated that either. I think the map's the right size for it. And keep in mind, if you don't want to drive, just hit start and you'll skip. Like you'll just
Hey,
go
sometimes,
where
like I
you're
said, I don't mind it if we're just like taking it in, listening to the radio and stuff like that. That's fine. I think what killed me was the fucking follow that dude. I hate that in all games. Even in Grand Theft Auto, it's like follow this guy. It's like I hate this. It's like you gotta stay a certain distance so they don't notice you. I'm like, I'm stopping at a stoplight with like 5-car distance in between all of us. Like they don't notice me like not stopping. Like I hate that in all games. To be fair,
It's funny. I was actually on his butt like the whole time. The thing I learned though is as long as you are following the laws, so like if I'm not weaving in and out of traffic or skipping people, then they never notice me. As long as I'm driving behind them normally, I was a foot away and it didn't matter. I just couldn't like.
I thought it
break
was
the
going up
rules.
the bar.
Yeah. So anyway, that is our second part of Mafia Definitive Edition. Next time we talk to you, we'll be playing the third one, and we'll be doing missions 11 through 15, which should be... You think by this time I would have the stuff looked up. Definitive Edition levels. All right, so this time we will be going from visiting rich people to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will finish You Lucky Bastard. That's the last mission we do. So we stop, Christian, just because I know you want both of these here. Finish You Lucky Bastard. You stop and do not play Creme de la Creme.
Boom. Got it.
I looked it up, by the way. Preston's totally right. He says it right there. I did not hear it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, 'cause I remember it happening. I didn't watch the old version, so I'm like, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't notice it either. Like I had a note and stuff on it.
It's
so
very
crazy,
quick, to
but-
be fair. So yeah.
Yeah. So all right, that's it. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. We'll be back next time with part 3 of this game. And if you're playing along with us, I hope you're having some fun. Just random side note before we go here. Tonight was the first experience I had of family sharing, 2 people playing the same game at one time. Preston was playing the game when I logged on. And because he was playing it first, even though it's my game, it booted me, which is interesting. So it pops up and it says, hey, you somebody else is playing this game. You have 2 minutes until
Oh, you were in the middle of playing it?
stops. No, you were playing it first, and I logged on after I got off
All right.
work.
I want to make sure I didn't kick you off.
And it said, no. Well, so it said, you have 2 minutes to play, and then it got to 1 minute. You have 1 minute to play. I was like, well, let's just see what happens. Then it got to 0 minutes, said, you have 0 minutes to play. And I was like, okay. And then I kept playing.
Yeah.
No, I kept playing, and like nothing happened. I'm like, okay, well, maybe they're just like playing mind games with you or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, poop, it kicked me out. And sent me to the home screen. So it was fine. I mean, no big deal, right? But I thought that was interesting. So that's how they handle that. It's not who owns the game or whatever. It's who's playing the
Sure.
game first.
It
Whoever's-
used to be who owned the game. It's not anymore.
So just who's playing
so
it. Gotcha.
I don't hate it, right? I don't hate that. But
No, I mean
it worked well.
we're part of we're in the same family. We got each other's numbers. We can hit each other up, say what's going on.
Yeah.
And I usually try to do it on Sundays anyways. I just didn't do it this past time. So
Yeah, no. So it's fine. I just thought it was interesting the way they handled it. Yeah, cool. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody once again. We will see you next week. Have a good one. And with that, Preston, you know what to do.
hit it.
All these guys in this room, they're here because they have the only thing that matters to me. The only thing that should matter to any of us. You know what that is, Tommy?
They're loyal.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If watching is more your thing, check out youtube.com/thetestingroom or Twitch TV/testingroompod. To leave comments and ask questions, follow us on Instagram @testingroompod and email us at testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.
Welcome to the family.